Tonight, as the world gradually settles into silence and the last lights begin to fade beyond distant windows, I invite you to leave behind the worries of the day and journey with me to a place unlike any other on earth. A place where ancient waters move gently beneath the stars. A place where time seems slower. A place where one of nature's most extraordinary creatures quietly drifts through the darkness. This creature does not roar. It does not fly. It does not race across vast landscapes or hunt with dramatic speed. Instead, it lives a calm and unhurried life beneath the surface of tranquil waters, hidden from most of the world. And yet, despite its peaceful appearance, it possesses abilities so remarkable that they have puzzled scientists for generations. Imagine an animal capable of regrowing a lost limb, not only once, not only twice, but again and again throughout its life. Imagine a creature that can repair parts of its heart, restore damaged tissue, and even regenerate sections of its spinal cord. Now imagine that this same animal spends its entire life looking as though it never fully grew up, almost as if nature paused midway through its transformation and simply decided that perfection had already been reached. Tonight we will meet that creature. The axolotl, a small amphibian whose story feels less like biology and more like a forgotten legend whispered across centuries. As you listen, there is no need to remember every fact, no need to focus on every detail. Allow the words to drift around you like gentle ripples moving across still water. Let curiosity replace urgency. Let wonder replace distraction. And if sleep begins to arrive before our journey is finished, that is perfectly fine. The story will continue, flowing softly onward like a quiet stream beneath moonlight. Long before modern cities covered the landscape, before highways crossed valleys and bright lights illuminated the night, the ancestors of the axolotl inhabited a vast network of lakes in what is now central Mexico. These waters reflected the stars for thousands of years. Mountains stood silently in the distance. Cool winds moved across the surface. Birds crossed the sky. And beneath those ancient waters, a strange little creature followed a path unlike any other in the natural world. Most amphibians undergo dramatic transformations during their lives. A tadpole eventually becomes a frog. A larva becomes a salamander. Change is expected. Growth is inevitable. Transformation is part of the plan. But the axolotl had a different idea. Instead of completing the final stage of development, it remained forever suspended between youth and adulthood. Forever carrying the features of its younger self. Forever wearing the delicate feather-like gills that extend gracefully from either side of its head. Forever appearing as though it belongs to another world. If you could see one drifting quietly through dark water, illuminated only by faint moonlight filtering from above, you might easily believe you were looking at a creature from a dream. Its movements are slow, measured, gentle. There is no rush, no urgency, no sense of competition, only the quiet rhythm of existence. Perhaps that is one reason so many people find the axolotl strangely comforting. In a world that often feels hurried and demanding, it seems to embody something entirely different. Patience, stillness, adaptation, a reminder that not every journey follows the expected path. As our story unfolds tonight, we will travel through ancient lakes and hidden canals. We will explore myths told by civilizations long ago. We will discover secrets buried within cells and tissues that may one day help scientists unlock new possibilities for healing. We will follow the axolotl through moonlit waters, through centuries of change, and through one of the most fascinating stories in the natural world. But for now, there is no destination to reach. No task to complete, no problem waiting to be solved, only the sound of a calm voice guiding you gently forward. Notice the steady rhythm of each sentence. Notice how the story moves without hurry, like water finding its way through a quiet channel, like a leaf drifting slowly downstream, like the axolotl itself gliding through the darkness beneath ancient waters. Somewhere, far away from busy streets and glowing screens, there are still places where the night settles softly upon the surface of the water. The stars reflect like scattered silver. The air grows cool, the world becomes quiet, and beneath that peaceful surface an axolotl continues its timeless journey, unaware of fame, unaware of science, unaware that humans across the world have become fascinated by its existence. It simply drifts, breathes, waits, and survives. Tonight, we will drift alongside it, through history, through mystery, through science, and through the gentle silence of the underwater world it calls home. So settle comfortably, allow your thoughts to slow, allow your breathing to become easy and natural. And as the night grows deeper around you, let us begin our journey into the remarkable story of the axolotl, the quiet creature that never truly grew up and yet became one of nature's greatest wonders. Chapter 1. A quiet introduction to the axolotl. As the night continues to deepen around us and the sounds of the day drift farther and farther away, let us move gently into the first chapter of our journey. Imagine standing beside a calm body of water long after sunset. The air is cool. The sky above is scattered with stars. The surface of the water appears almost perfectly still, reflecting tiny points of light that shimmer softly with every faint movement of the breeze. There is no rush here, no noise, no urgency, only silence, darkness, and the quiet rhythm of nature continuing exactly as it has for countless generations. Beneath the surface of these waters, hidden from view, lives one of the most unusual creatures on our planet. A creature that many people have never seen in the wild. A creature so strange that the first time someone encounters it, they often wonder whether it is real at all. This creature is the axolotl. At first glance, the axolotl appears almost playful in appearance. Its face seems to carry a permanent gentle smile. Its small eyes gaze outward with quiet curiosity. Its delicate feathery gills extend from each side of its head like soft underwater branches swaying in an invisible current. Everything about its appearance feels calm, gentle, unthreatening, and perhaps that is one reason why so many people around the world have become fascinated by it. The axolotl does not possess the size of a whale. It does not have the speed of a cheetah. It cannot soar through the sky like an eagle. It is not famous for strength, power, or dramatic displays. Instead, its uniqueness comes from something far quieter, something hidden beneath its peaceful appearance, something that scientists are still studying even today. Yet before we explore those remarkable abilities, it is worth spending a little time simply getting to know the creature itself. Because the axolotl story begins not with extraordinary science, but with a quiet life beneath the water. If you were able to observe an axolotl in its natural habitat, you might first notice how slowly it moves. Unlike many animals that spend their lives searching, chasing, fleeing, or competing, the axolotl seems almost content to let the world move around it. It drifts, it waits, it observes. Sometimes it rests among aquatic plants for long periods. At other times it glides gently through the water, propelled by slow movements of its tail. Its pace feels perfectly suited to the environment it inhabits. Everything is measured, everything is calm, everything unfolds without hurry. In many ways, the axolotl seems to embody a quality that modern life often lacks: stillness, a quiet acceptance of the present moment. There is something strangely comforting about imagining such a creature moving peacefully through dark waters, while the rest of the world races forward. Perhaps that is why people often describe the axolotl as charming, not because it performs impressive tricks, not because it dominates its surroundings, but because it appears entirely at ease with itself. And as we continue tonight, you may find that the axolotl becomes more than simply an animal. It may begin to feel like a guide through a slower and gentler world, a reminder that nature contains countless ways of living, many of which are very different from our own. The axolotl belongs to a group of animals known as amphibians. These are creatures whose lives are often connected to both water and land. Frogs, salamanders, and newts are all familiar examples. Most amphibians undergo dramatic changes as they mature. A tiny tadpole eventually transforms into a frog. A young salamander develops into its adult form. Growth brings change. Change brings new abilities. and transformation is considered a normal part of life. Yet the axolotl follows a different path. A path so unusual that it has become one of the defining features of its existence. While most amphibians eventually leave behind their youthful characteristics, the axolotl retains many of them throughout its entire life. Its external gills remain visible. Its body preserves features normally associated with younger stages of development, and despite reaching adulthood and becoming capable of reproduction, it continues to look remarkably youthful. This unique trait has fascinated naturalists and scientists for centuries, but for now, rather than focusing on technical explanations, simply imagine what this means from the perspective of the animal itself. While other creatures transform and change around it, the axolotl remains much the same. Year after year, generation after generation, as though it exists slightly outside the usual rules of growth, there is something almost poetic about that idea, a creature suspended between stages, neither rushing toward transformation nor resisting it, simply existing in its own way. The more we learn about the natural world, the more we discover that life rarely follows a single pattern. Nature delights in exceptions. It experiments endlessly, and sometimes those experiments produce creatures as extraordinary as the axolotl. To understand why the axolotl appears so unusual, it helps to picture the environment in which it evolved. For thousands of years, its ancestors inhabited lakes and waterways surrounded by mountains and fertile landscapes. The water provided food, protection, shelter, and over many generations the species became perfectly adapted to this aquatic world. Its body reflects that history. Its broad tail helps it move efficiently through the water. Its gills gather oxygen from its surroundings. Its senses are tuned to detect movement and vibrations in the aquatic environment. Everything about the axolotl suggests a creature that belongs beneath the surface, a creature shaped by water. Even now, if you imagine an axolotl gliding quietly through a moonlit canal, it seems difficult to picture it anywhere else. The water feels like an extension of the animal itself, a place where every movement becomes effortless, a place where gravity seems softer, a place where silence feels complete, and perhaps as you listen tonight, you can imagine yourself there as well. Not standing beside the water, but drifting gently through it, moving slowly among waving plants, passing beneath reflections of stars, entering a world where time appears to stretch and soften. A world inhabited by one of nature's most remarkable residents. The axolotl's appearance often surprises people because it feels almost designed by imagination. Its feather-like gills resemble underwater flowers. Its smooth skin seems delicate and luminous. Its face carries an expression that many describe as friendly. Of course, the axolotl is not smiling in the human sense, yet something about its features creates that impression. And perhaps that small illusion has helped it capture the hearts of people across the globe. When photographs of axolotls began spreading through books, documentaries, and later the internet, many viewers were instantly captivated. Some thought it looked like a creature from folklore. Others compared it to a character from a fantasy story. Yet despite its unusual appearance, the axolotl is entirely real, a living reminder that nature often surpasses imagination. The deeper we look into the natural world, the more astonishing it becomes. Sometimes the most extraordinary creatures are not hidden in distant galaxies or mythical kingdoms. Sometimes they exist quietly beneath the surface of a lake, waiting to be discovered. As the years passed, scientists learned more about the axolotl and uncovered abilities that seemed almost unbelievable. Abilities we will explore in the chapters ahead. But before we reach those discoveries, it is worth appreciating the simple fact that the axolotl exists at all. A small amphibian, living beneath the water, following rhythms established long before modern civilization appeared, carrying ancient evolutionary history within its body, and continuing its quiet existence even as the world around it changes. Tonight, our journey is only beginning. We have met the axolotl for the first time. We have observed its peaceful movements. We have entered its underwater world. and we have begun to understand why this gentle creature has inspired curiosity across generations. But many mysteries still remain. Where did the axolotl come from? How did it become associated with ancient legends? Why does it seem so different from other amphibians? And what secrets are hidden within its extraordinary biology? Those answers await us. For now, allow the image of the axolotl to remain in your mind, a small figure drifting through dark, tranquil waters, surrounded by silence, moving without hurry, living according to rhythms far older than any human memory. And as you continue listening, let that image carry you gently onward into the next chapter of our story. Chapter 2: The Ancient Waters of Mexico. As we continue our quiet journey tonight, allow your thoughts to drift even farther from the present moment, far beyond modern cities, far beyond busy roads and glowing screens, far beyond the sounds of everyday life. Imagine traveling backward through time, not by years, not by centuries, but by thousands of years. The world begins to change around you. Buildings disappear, roads fade away. The distant hum of modern civilization grows silent. In its place emerges a landscape shaped almost entirely by nature. Towering mountains stand beneath vast skies. Clouds drift lazily above volcanic peaks. Cool winds sweep across open valleys, and scattered throughout this ancient land lies a remarkable network of lakes, marshes, streams, and waterways. This is the Valley of Mexico, as it existed long before the modern world. A place where water played a central role in nearly every aspect of life. And somewhere within these ancient waters, the story of the axolotl quietly unfolds. Tonight, let us slow down and spend some time exploring this forgotten world. Because to understand the axolotl, we must first understand the home that shaped it. Many thousands of years ago, central Mexico looked very different from the landscape that exists today. Large interconnected lakes filled much of the valley. Rainfall, mountain runoff, and underground springs supplied these waters, creating a vast aquatic environment rich with life. Some lakes contained fresh water, others contained water with varying levels of minerals and salinity. Together, they formed a complex ecosystem unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. The water reflected the changing colors of the sky. At sunrise, it shimmered with gold. At sunset, it glowed with shades of orange and crimson. And at night, beneath clear skies, it mirrored countless stars. Imagine standing beside one of these lakes long ago. The air is cool and fresh. Birds move across the horizon. Tall reeds sway gently near the shoreline. Small ripples spread across the water's surface. Everything feels peaceful. Everything feels alive. Beneath the surface, an entire hidden world exists. Fish move through underwater vegetation. Insects glide across the water. Tiny organisms drift with the currents, and among them lives a creature perfectly adapted to this environment. The axolotl. Generation after generation, its ancestors inhabited these waters. Their lives became intertwined with the rhythms of the lakes. The changing seasons, the movement of aquatic plants, the availability of food, the temperature of the water, everything about their existence was shaped by this environment. Nature is often a patient sculptor. It does not work in days or years. It works across thousands and millions of years. Tiny changes accumulate slowly. Adaptations emerge gradually. Species become increasingly suited to the places they call home. And over immense spans of time, the axolotl became one of the most specialized inhabitants of these waters. Its body evolved for life beneath the surface. Its senses adapted to the underwater world. Its movements became efficient and graceful. Every feature tells part of the story of an animal shaped by water. As the centuries passed, the lakes continued their quiet existence. Storms came and went. Seasons changed. Generations of animals lived and disappeared. Yet the waters remained, calm, persistent, ancient. There is something deeply soothing about imagining such continuity. In our own lives, so much seems to change from day to day. Schedules shift, technology evolves, entire cities transform. Yet these waters existed for ages beyond ordinary human understanding. long before history was written, long before maps were drawn, long before anyone could imagine the world we know today. The axolotl's story is inseparable from this sense of deep time. Its ancestors witnessed changes that unfolded so slowly they would have been impossible to notice within a single lifetime. A shoreline gradually shifting, a wetland expanding, a new species appearing, nature moving at its own patient pace. As you listen, perhaps you can imagine floating quietly above these ancient waters. The surface is smooth, the air is cool, the night sky stretches endlessly overhead. Below you, shadows move among aquatic plants, small fish pass through shafts of moonlight. And somewhere nearby, an axelottle glides silently through the darkness. Its world is not governed by clocks. It knows nothing of calendars. It does not measure time in hours or minutes. Instead, its life follows older rhythms. The rhythm of water, the rhythm of seasons, the rhythm of nature itself. These lakes supported extraordinary biodiversity. Countless species depended upon the aquatic environment for survival. Birds nested along the shorelines. Fish occupied different ecological niches. Amphibians thrived in the wetlands. Plants flourished in shallow waters where sunlight could reach their leaves. Together they formed a complex web of life. Each species connected to countless others, each playing a role in maintaining balance. The axolotl occupied its own unique place within this ecosystem, neither the largest creature nor the smallest, neither the most powerful nor the weakest, simply one participant among many in a thriving natural community. There is a quiet lesson hidden within that idea. The natural world rarely revolves around a single species. Instead, life depends upon relationships, connections, interactions, balance. The axolotl survived not because it existed alone, but because it formed part of a larger living system. The water nourished plants. Plants provided shelter. Small animals provided food. And the ecosystem continued functioning through countless interconnected processes. When we imagine ancient environments, it is easy to picture them as frozen moments in time. Yet they were constantly changing. Rainfall altered water levels. Temperatures shifted with the seasons, floods reshaped shorelines, droughts occasionally transformed entire landscapes. Still, despite these changes, the lakes endured, and the axolotl adapted alongside them. One of the most famous locations associated with the axolotl is Xochimilco. Today, it is known for its canals and floating gardens, but long ago, it formed part of a much larger aquatic system. The waters there became one of the final refuges for wild axolotls as other habitats gradually disappeared. Even now, when people think of the axolotl, they often picture the canals of Xochimilco. Quiet waterways winding through vegetation, reflections dancing across the surface, ancient traditions surviving alongside modern life. There is something almost dreamlike about this place, a landscape where water and land seem to blend together. A place where history feels close enough to touch. Imagine drifting slowly through one of these canals late at night. The moon hangs overhead. Trees cast soft reflections upon the water. The air is still. The world feels suspended between past and present, and beneath the surface, hidden from sight, an axolotl continues a journey begun thousands of years ago. It is remarkable to think that this small amphibian carries within its existence a connection to such an ancient world. Many creatures adapt to changing environments. Many species come and go. Yet the axolotl remains a living link to ecosystems that once covered an entire valley, a survivor from another age, a quiet witness to history. The more we consider this, the more extraordinary the creature becomes, not because of dramatic behavior, not because of great size, but because its story stretches so far into the past. Every axolotl alive today belongs to a lineage shaped by ancient lakes, volcanic landscapes, and countless generations of adaptation. Its presence connects modern observers to a world that existed long before contemporary civilization. And perhaps that connection is part of what makes the axolotl so fascinating. When we look at it, we are not merely seeing a curious amphibian. we are glimpsing a fragment of ancient natural history, a small survivor carrying echoes of vanished waters. As our journey through these ancient lakes slowly comes to an end, allow yourself to linger for a moment beside their shores. Listen to the imagined sounds of gentle water. Feel the cool night air. Watch the stars reflected upon the surface. Picture the reeds moving softly in the breeze, and beneath the water, picture the axolotl, calm, silent, unhurried, perfectly at home in the world that shaped it. The ancient waters of Mexico gave rise to one of nature's most remarkable creatures, but those waters also inspired stories, legends, beliefs passed from generation to generation. For the people who lived beside these lakes long ago, the axolotl was more than simply an animal. Its existence became woven into mythology itself, and in our next chapter, we will leave the world of geology and ancient landscapes behind for a while. Instead, we will enter a world of gods, legends, and stories whispered across centuries. A world where the name axolotl first acquired its deeper meaning. Chapter 3. The meaning behind the name. As we leave behind the ancient lakes and moonlit waters of our previous chapter, let us continue drifting gently backward through time. The night remains calm, the stars remain above us, the waters of the Valley of Mexico still reflect the sky as they have for countless generations. But now, rather than observing the landscape alone, we begin to notice the people who once lived beside these waters. Communities grew along the shores. Villages appeared among fertile lands. Families built their lives around the lakes and canals. They fished, they farmed, they traveled by water. And like people everywhere throughout history, they told stories, stories about the world around them, stories about nature, stories about mysterious creatures that shared their environment. And among those creatures was the remarkable animal we know today as the axolotl. Names are curious things. They often carry fragments of history hidden within them. A name can preserve a memory long after events themselves have faded. It can connect the present to the distant past. It can reveal how people once understood the world around them. The name axolotl is one such example. To modern ears, the word sounds unusual, distinctive, almost magical. It does not resemble the names of most familiar animals, and perhaps that is fitting, because the creature itself feels unlike almost any other. Yet behind this unique name lies a fascinating story stretching back hundreds of years. A story connected to one of the most sophisticated civilizations of the ancient Americas, the Aztecs. The Aztec civilization flourished in central Mexico long before European explorers arrived in the region. Their cities were remarkable achievements of engineering and design. Their culture was rich with art, astronomy, agriculture, and mythology. And their understanding of the natural world was deeply woven into their spiritual beliefs. To the Aztecs, nature was not merely a collection of plants and animals. It was filled with meaning. Rivers, mountains, storms, animals, and celestial bodies all played roles within a vast network of stories and symbols. The world itself was alive with significance. Within this cultural landscape emerged the legend most often associated with the axolotl, the legend of a god named Xolotl. Pronounced roughly as Xolotl, Xolotl was an important figure in Aztec mythology. He was associated with many things: darkness, twilight, fire, transformation, guidance, and journeys between worlds. Unlike some gods who were portrayed as noble and radiant, Xolotl occupied a more mysterious place within the mythology. He was often connected with change, uncertainty, and movement between different states of existence. A fitting association, perhaps, for a creature that itself seemed suspended between stages of life. According to one well-known version of the legend, there came a time when the gods were required to sacrifice themselves to help sustain the movement of the sun and maintain cosmic order. Most accepted their fate, but Xolotl feared what awaited him. Unwilling to surrender himself, he sought escape. And so began a remarkable journey of transformation. The story tells us that Xolotl changed his form repeatedly in an attempt to avoid capture. He transformed into different plants and creatures. Each transformation offered temporary refuge. Each new shape allowed him to hide for a little while longer, yet eventually he was discovered. Among the forms he is said to have taken was that of a strange aquatic creature living within the lakes and waterways of the Valley of Mexico. That creature became known as the axolotl. The exact details vary depending on the version of the story being told. As with many ancient myths, different retellings emphasize different aspects, but the central idea remains remarkably consistent. The axolotl became linked to themes of transformation, survival, and escape. Whether the legend emerged because of the animal's unusual appearance, or whether the connection developed gradually over time, no one can say with complete certainty. What matters is that the association endured. Generation after generation, century after century, the story survived, and with it, the name. When viewed through the lens of mythology, the axolotl becomes something more than an amphibian. It becomes a symbol, a creature connected to ancient imagination, a living thread linking the modern world to stories told long ago beneath the same stars that shine above us tonight. Imagine for a moment a storyteller speaking beside a fire many centuries ago. Night has settled over the valley. Families gather nearby. The flames flicker softly. Children listen closely, and the storyteller begins describing the adventures of Axolotl, the god who transformed himself again and again, the god who sought refuge among the waters, the god whose name became forever connected to a small aquatic creature. Perhaps somewhere nearby, in the darkness beyond the firelight, a real axolotl drifts silently through the reeds. Unaware that it has become part of human legend, unaware that people have woven stories around its existence, simply living its life beneath the surface, there is something comforting about that image. The coexistence of myth and reality, the way humans seek meaning in the natural world, the way stories emerge from observation, curiosity, and imagination. Throughout history, countless animals have inspired myths. Wolves, owls, ravens, snakes, whales. Yet the axolotl occupies a particularly fascinating place among them because it already seems so extraordinary even without mythology. Its appearance feels unusual. Its biology seems almost unbelievable. Its lifestyle differs from expectations. In some ways, it already resembles a creature from legend. Perhaps that is why the stories surrounding it feel so natural. The boundary between reality and myth becomes softer. The creature itself invites wonder. As centuries passed, the Aztec Empire rose and eventually fell. Great cities changed, empires disappeared. Languages evolved, generations came and went, yet the name endured. Axolotl, a word carrying echoes of ancient beliefs, a word connecting modern science to distant mythology. A word that has traveled through time alongside the creature itself. Even today, when scientists publish research papers about regeneration, genetics, and developmental biology, they continue using a name rooted in centuries of history. That connection is remarkable. The same word spoken beside ancient lakes can now appear within modern laboratories. The same creature that inspired mythology now inspires scientific investigation. Past and present meet within a single name. And perhaps that meeting point tells us something important about human curiosity. Whether through mythology or science, people have always sought to understand the mysteries around them. Ancient storytellers created legends. Modern researchers conduct experiments. Different methods, different goals. Yet both begin with the same spark of wonder, the same desire to ask questions, the same fascination with extraordinary things. The axolotl has inspired that fascination for generations. Long before microscopes, long before universities, long before scientific journals, people looked at this unusual animal and sensed that there was something special about it, something worth remembering, something worth talking about, and they were right. As we continue our journey tonight, it is worth appreciating how rare such continuity truly is. Very few creatures carry connections to both ancient mythology and cutting-edge science. Very few animals can claim a place in legends told centuries ago, while simultaneously helping researchers explore the future of medicine. Yet the axolotl manages both. It belongs to two worlds at once, the world of stories and the world of discovery. Perhaps that is another reason why it captivates so many people. It reminds us that knowledge does not replace wonder. Instead, knowledge often deepens it. The more we learn about the axolotl, the more fascinating it becomes. Its myths remain compelling, its biology remains astonishing, and its story continues to unfold. For now, allow the ancient name to settle gently into your thoughts. Axolotl, a word carried across centuries, a word born among lakes, legends, and starlit nights, a word connected to transformation, mystery, and survival. And as the night grows quieter around us, imagine once more those ancient waters reflecting the stars. Imagine the storytellers gathered beside their fires. Imagine the god Axolotl seeking refuge among the reeds. And somewhere beneath the surface, moving silently through moonlit water, imagine the small creature that inherited his name. A creature whose greatest mystery is still waiting to be revealed. Because in the next chapter, we will explore one of the most unusual aspects of the axolotl's existence. A biological mystery so extraordinary that it seems almost impossible. The story of an animal that never truly grows up, an animal that chose a different path from nearly every other amphibian on Earth, and that remarkable journey begins next. Chapter 4. A creature that refused to grow up. As the story continues and the quiet waters of ancient Mexico drift gently through our imagination, we arrive at one of the most remarkable chapters in the life of the axolotl. It is a chapter that has fascinated scientists for generations, a chapter that sounds almost impossible at first. And yet it is entirely real. Tonight, we will explore the unusual path that made the axolotl one of nature's greatest exceptions, a path that earned it a reputation unlike any other amphibian on Earth. The story of a creature that never truly grows up. For most living things, growth follows a familiar pattern. A seed becomes a plant, a hatchling becomes an adult, a young animal gradually develops the characteristics needed for maturity. Change is expected. Transformation is part of life. The natural world is filled with examples of this process. Caterpillars become butterflies, tadpoles become frogs, young salamanders develop into adults. Each stage prepares the animal for the next. The journey seems almost universal, and yet, every so often, nature creates an exception, a creature that follows a different path. The axolotl is one of those rare exceptions. To understand just how unusual it is, imagine the life of a typical salamander. Many salamanders begin their lives in water. As juveniles, they possess features designed for aquatic living. They breathe using gills. They spend their days beneath the surface. Their bodies are adapted for swimming rather than walking on land. But eventually, a transformation occurs. As they mature, they lose their external gills. Their bodies change. Their lungs become increasingly important, and they move into a more terrestrial lifestyle. This process is known as metamorphosis, a dramatic biological transition that reshapes the animal's body and way of life. For countless amphibians around the world, metamorphosis is a normal and expected part of existence. Yet the axolotl does something extraordinary. It reaches adulthood without completing this transformation. It remains aquatic. Its feathery external gills stay in place. Its juvenile features remain visible. And despite retaining these youthful characteristics, it becomes fully capable of reproduction. In other words, the axolotl grows up without ever looking completely grown up. Scientists refer to this phenomenon as neoteny. The word may sound technical, but the idea behind it is surprisingly simple. Neoteny occurs when an animal retains characteristics normally associated with youth while still reaching sexual maturity. Instead of following the usual developmental path, growth takes a different direction. The axolotl becomes an adult while preserving many features of its younger self. The result is one of the most distinctive animals on Earth. There is something almost poetic about this biological strategy. While other amphibians undergo dramatic transformations, The axolotl remains largely true to its original form. While others leave the water behind, it stays. While others exchange gills for a different way of life, it keeps them. It is as though nature offered the axolotl two possible roads, and the axolotl quietly chose the one less traveled. Imagine a moonlit canal somewhere in ancient Mexico. The water is calm. The stars reflect upon the surface. An axolotl drifts slowly among aquatic plants. Its delicate gills sway gently with the movement of the water. Nearby, other amphibians may eventually undergo profound changes as they mature. But the axolotl remains as it is, comfortable in the environment where it began, perfectly suited to the aquatic world. There is no need to leave, no need to transform, no need to become something else. Its youthful form already works remarkably well. For centuries, people observing the axolotl found this difficult to understand. At first glance, it appears unfinished, almost as though it is waiting for a future transformation that never arrives. Yet the longer scientists studied the animal, the more they realized that nothing was missing. The axolotl is not incomplete. It is not stuck. It is not halfway through development. It has simply evolved a different solution. And that solution has proven successful for a very long time. Nature rarely cares about appearances. What matters is survival. What matters is adaptation. What matters is whether a creature can thrive within its environment. The axolotl succeeded because its aquatic lifestyle offered advantages. The lakes and canals where it evolved provided everything it needed: food, shelter, protection, a suitable place to reproduce. Remaining in the water made sense. Over countless generations, natural selection favored traits that supported this lifestyle. The result was the remarkable animal we know today. One of the most fascinating aspects of the axolotl's story is how completely it challenges human expectations. People often assume that growth follows a single path, that maturity must look a certain way, that development always ends at the same destination. But nature does not follow such rigid rules. Again and again, the natural world demonstrates extraordinary flexibility. Different environments create different solutions. Different challenges produce different adaptations. And sometimes those adaptations seem almost unbelievable. The axolotl reminds us that there is more than one way to succeed, more than one way to mature, more than one way to exist. As researchers learned more about neoteny, they began asking deeper questions. What controls metamorphosis? Why do some amphibians transform while others do not? What biological signals determine the timing of these changes? The axolotl became an important subject of scientific investigation because it offered clues to these mysteries. Inside its body, researchers discovered complex interactions involving hormones and developmental pathways. In many amphibians, specific hormones trigger metamorphosis. These chemical signals initiate dramatic physical changes throughout the body. In the axolotl, however, the process functions differently. The signals associated with transformation remain greatly reduced compared with those of many related species. As a result, the expected metamorphosis never fully occurs. Instead, the axolotl continues living in its aquatic form, comfortably, successfully, naturally. Interestingly, under certain carefully controlled conditions, scientists have shown that an axolotl can be induced to undergo metamorphosis. Its body can change, its gills can disappear, its appearance can become more similar to that of a terrestrial salamander. Yet this transformation is not the normal course of life for wild axolotls. Their natural state remains the aquatic form that has defined the species for generations. And perhaps there is something fitting about that. The creature most famous for transformation is also famous for choosing not to transform, a paradox that only adds to its fascination. As the hours of the night pass quietly around us, it is pleasant to imagine the axolotl continuing its peaceful existence beneath the water. It does not concern itself with scientific terminology. It knows nothing of developmental biology. It has never heard the word neoteny. It simply lives, gliding through the darkness, resting among aquatic plants, following instincts shaped by ancient evolutionary history. The remarkable complexity that fascinates researchers exists entirely beyond its awareness, and yet it remains there, hidden within every cell. Nature often works this way. Extraordinary processes unfold silently, without announcement, without spectacle. The most remarkable stories are often hidden beneath calm surfaces. The axolotl embodies that idea perfectly. At first glance, it seems gentle and uncomplicated, a small amphibian drifting through quiet waters. But beneath that peaceful exterior lies one of the most unusual developmental strategies ever discovered, a biological path unlike almost any other. The more we learn about it, the more extraordinary it becomes, and perhaps that realization offers a quiet lesson of its own. Things are not always what they first appear to be. Sometimes the greatest mysteries exist beneath ordinary surfaces. Sometimes the most fascinating stories belong to the quietest creatures, and sometimes an animal that appears forever young can teach us more about life than we ever expected. For now, allow the image of the axolotl to settle once more into your imagination. Its delicate gills moving gently in the water, its body drifting beneath reflected starlight, its existence following a path unlike any other amphibian, a creature that never truly grew up, not because it failed to change, but because evolution had already found exactly what it needed. And as we continue our journey, another mystery awaits us, because those feathery gills that remain throughout the axolotl's life are far more than a curious feature. They are elegant biological structures perfectly suited to life beneath the water. In the next chapter, we will take a closer look at these remarkable underwater feathers and discover how they help the axolotl breathe within its quiet aquatic world. Chapter 5. Floating through an underwater world. As the night continues its gentle passage and the outside world grows quieter with every passing moment, let us return once more to the calm waters where the axolotl makes its home. For a little while, there is no need to think about laboratories, biology, or scientific mysteries. Instead, allow yourself to simply observe, to slow down, to drift. Imagine that you are floating just beneath the surface of a tranquil canal. The water is cool but comfortable. Above you, moonlight filters through gentle ripples, creating shifting patterns of silver and shadow. The surface glows softly. The deeper water fades into darkness. Aquatic plants sway with slow, graceful movements. Tiny particles drift silently through the water, carried by currents too subtle to notice. Everything feels peaceful. Everything moves at its own pace, and somewhere nearby, an axolotl begins its nightly journey. Unlike many creatures, the axolotl is not constantly in motion. It does not spend every moment searching for food. It does not race through its environment. It does not engage in dramatic displays of strength or speed. Instead, much of its life unfolds in quiet observation. It waits, it rests, it drifts. Its movements seem perfectly suited to the world around it, a world where patience often proves more valuable than urgency. As the axolotl moves through the water, its broad tail provides gentle propulsion. A slow wave travels down the length of its body. The movement is smooth, almost effortless. There is no sudden burst of energy, no frantic activity. Only a gradual glide through the underwater landscape. Watching such movement can feel strangely calming. It resembles the slow drifting of a leaf carried downstream, or a cloud moving across a night sky. The axolotl appears entirely at home within this rhythm. Its body was shaped by countless generations spent beneath the surface. Every feature serves a purpose. Every movement reflects adaptation. And because of this, the creature seems almost perfectly integrated into its environment. The water is not merely where it lives. The water is part of its identity. Imagine following the axolotl as it moves through a maze of underwater plants. Long stems rise toward the surface. Leaves create pockets of shadow and light. Tiny fish dart between hidden spaces. Insects rest among submerged vegetation. The ecosystem is busy in its own quiet way. Life unfolds everywhere, yet it rarely feels hurried. Beneath the surface, the pace of existence often seems slower than it does above. Sound travels differently underwater, movements appear softened, the world feels insulated from the noise beyond. For the axolotl, this environment is familiar. Every vibration carries information, every subtle movement may signal opportunity or caution. Although its eyes contribute to its awareness of the world, vision is only part of the story. The axolotl relies heavily upon its ability to detect movements and disturbances in the surrounding water. Tiny changes can reveal the presence of prey. A faint vibration may indicate activity nearby. In this way, the underwater world communicates through sensations that humans rarely experience directly. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to perceive the environment through gentle waves moving through the water, to sense motion before seeing it. To navigate a world shaped not by bright colors or distant horizons, but by subtle currents and vibrations. The axolotl has evolved to do exactly that. Its experience of the underwater world differs profoundly from our own. And perhaps that difference contributes to its mysterious quality. We can observe it, we can study it, but we can never fully experience the world exactly as it does. There will always remain an element of mystery. As the hours pass, the axolotl alternates between periods of movement and rest. Sometimes it settles quietly among aquatic plants. Sometimes it remains motionless on the bottom. At other moments, it glides gracefully through open water. Nothing appears rushed. Its behavior reflects a strategy that conserves energy while taking advantage of opportunities when they arise. Many creatures survive through speed, others survive through strength. The axolotl often survives through patience. And patience, in the natural world, can be a remarkably effective adaptation. Imagine a still pool illuminated by moonlight. An axolotl rests among the shadows. Minutes pass, perhaps longer. Nothing seems to happen, yet the animal remains alert, attentive, ready to respond when necessary. Then, almost imperceptibly, it shifts position. A slow movement of the tail, a gentle glide forward, a subtle adjustment. The quiet rhythm continues. For an animal living beneath the water, unnecessary movement can waste valuable energy. The axolotl appears to understand this instinctively. Its lifestyle reflects efficiency rather than excess, and there is something undeniably peaceful about that. Many people today live surrounded by constant stimulation, notifications, schedules, deadlines, movement, noise. The world often demands attention at every moment. The axolotl inhabits a very different reality. Its existence unfolds according to ancient rhythms largely unchanged for generations. The water does not care about appointments. The moon does not rush. The plants do not hurry. Everything moves according to natural cycles, and the axolotl moves with them. Perhaps that is one reason why imagining this creature can feel so relaxing. It represents a form of life untouched by many of the pressures that shape human experience. Its world is simpler, not easy certainly. Nature always presents challenges, but simpler, more immediate, more connected to the present moment. As darkness settles across the landscape above, the underwater world often becomes more active. Many aquatic creatures emerge during the night. The reduced light offers protection. Temperatures may become more comfortable. The environment changes subtly. The axolotl is particularly well suited to these quieter hours. Night provides opportunities for exploration, for feeding, for movement through its habitat. Imagine the moon reflected on the canal above. Silver light dances across the surface. The water below remains calm. An axolotl drifts beneath the reflections. Its feathery gills sway gently. Its limbs extend outward. Its body moves with slow confidence through familiar territory. The scene feels timeless, a moment that could have occurred yesterday, or 100 years ago, or perhaps even much longer. There is something deeply comforting about such continuity. The natural world changes, yet many of its rhythms endure. The axolotl continues following patterns established long before modern civilization emerged. Its nightly journey remains much the same. Its connection to the water remains unbroken. Its existence continues quietly beneath the surface. The more we imagine this underwater world, the easier it becomes to understand why the axolotl evolved in the way it did. Its environment rewards patience, its habitat favors specialized adaptations, its lifestyle reflects the unique conditions of the lakes and canals that shaped its history. Nothing about the axolotl exists in isolation. Every feature connects to its surroundings. Every behavior reflects the world it inhabits. The animal and its environment form a partnership that has developed over immense spans of time. As we continue drifting alongside our silent companion, notice how little effort seems required. The axolotl is not struggling against the water. It moves with it, not resisting, not forcing, simply adapting. Perhaps there is wisdom hidden in that image. Sometimes progress does not require rushing forward. Sometimes survival depends upon moving with the currents rather than against them. Nature often teaches such lessons quietly, without words, without intention. Simply through observation. The axolotl never attempts to impress. It never seeks attention. Yet by existing exactly as it is, it reveals something profound about adaptation and balance. Now imagine the underwater world growing even quieter. The plants sway gently. Tiny creatures settle among the shadows. The moon climbs higher in the sky, and the axolotl continues its peaceful journey through the darkness. Its world remains calm. Its movements remain slow. Its existence remains beautifully uncomplicated. For tonight, we have drifted beside it through this hidden aquatic landscape. We have seen the water through its eyes, or at least as closely as our imagination allows. We have followed its silent path beneath moonlit reflections, and we have begun to appreciate the serenity of the environment it calls home. Yet one of its most remarkable features has accompanied us throughout this journey without receiving the attention it deserves. Those delicate structures extending from either side of its head. Those graceful, feathery branches moving softly with every current. The gills that have become one of the axolotl's most recognizable characteristics. In the next chapter, we will explore these remarkable structures more closely and discover how they help sustain life within the calm underwater world we have come to know so well. Chapter 6: The Feathered Gills. As our journey continues through the quiet waterways of the axolotl's world, let us slow down even further. The night has become deeper now. The stars shine softly above the water. The surface reflects pale ribbons of moonlight, and beneath those reflections, our small aquatic companion drifts peacefully through the darkness. At first glance, there is one feature that immediately captures attention. Even among people who know very little about the axolotl, this characteristic is almost always the first thing they notice. 3 delicate branches extending outward from each side of its head. Soft, elegant, almost feathery in appearance, they sway gently with every movement of the water, like underwater ferns dancing in a slow current, like tiny crimson trees growing from a dream. These are the axolotl's external gills, one of the most recognizable features in the animal kingdom, and perhaps one of the most beautiful. Tonight, we will spend some time appreciating these remarkable structures, not simply as biological organs, but as part of the quiet elegance that makes the axolotl so unique. Imagine once again that you are floating beneath the surface of a calm canal. The water around you is still, only the faintest current moves through the darkness. Nearby, an axolotl glides past. As it moves, its feathery gills sway softly behind it. The movement is graceful, almost hypnotic. There is something deeply calming about watching them. Nature often creates beauty without intention. The feathers of birds, the patterns of leaves, the shapes of snowflakes, the spirals of shells. The gills of the axolotl belong to that same category of natural elegance. Structures shaped by function, yet possessing extraordinary beauty. Their purpose is simple. They help the axolotl breathe. Yet the way they accomplish this task is fascinating. Unlike humans who draw air into lungs, the axolotl spends most of its life extracting oxygen directly from water. The external gills serve as specialized structures for this process. Each feathery branch contains countless tiny filaments. These delicate extensions dramatically increase the amount of surface area exposed to the surrounding water. And in nature, surface area often means opportunity. The greater the area available for exchange, the more efficiently oxygen can move into the body. Imagine a tree. A tree does not rely upon a single large leaf. Instead, it produces thousands of leaves. Together, they create an enormous surface capable of interacting with sunlight and air. The axolotl's gills function in a somewhat similar way. Each filament contributes a small amount. Together, they create a highly effective breathing system. Water flows gently across these structures. Oxygen enters the bloodstream. Carbon dioxide leaves. The exchange continues quietly and continuously throughout the animal's life. There is no conscious effort involved, no decision required. The process unfolds automatically, a silent partnership between biology and environment. As the axolotl drifts through its aquatic world, its gills are always working, always gathering oxygen, always supporting life. And because blood vessels run close to the surface of the filaments, the gills often display beautiful shades of pink, red, or crimson. This coloration contributes greatly to their striking appearance. The blood itself helps create the vivid tones people find so memorable. In some lighting conditions, the gills seem almost luminous, as though tiny branches of coral have been attached to the animal's head. In other conditions, they appear softer and more subdued, their colors blending gently into the surrounding water. The exact appearance can vary depending on health, activity, and environmental conditions, yet their elegance remains constant. Perhaps that is why artists so often become fascinated with the axolotl. Its features feel almost designed for illustration. Its shape is distinctive, its expression seems gentle, and its gills create a silhouette unlike any other amphibian. Many creatures possess hidden biological complexity. The axolotl wears part of its complexity openly, visible to anyone willing to look closely. Imagine observing an axolotl resting quietly among aquatic plants. The body remains still, the tail barely moves, yet the gills continue their gentle dance, responding to subtle currents, shifting softly with the water, creating a sense of life even during moments of complete stillness. It is easy to understand why so many people find this calming. The movement feels rhythmic, predictable, natural, almost meditative. And perhaps that is one reason why the axolotl has become such a beloved creature around the world. There is a peaceful quality to its appearance, a softness rarely associated with amphibians. The gills play a major role in creating that impression. For many animals, breathing involves obvious motion, the expansion of a chest, the opening and closing of a mouth, the movement of lungs. With the axolotl, the process appears more subtle. Life continues quietly beneath the surface. The gills do their work without drama, without noise, without interruption. A reminder that some of nature's most important processes are also among its most silent. Interestingly, the axolotl does not rely exclusively upon its external gills. Nature often favors flexibility. In addition to extracting oxygen through these feathery structures, the animal can also utilize lungs and absorb oxygen through its skin. This combination provides multiple pathways for obtaining oxygen, a useful adaptation within changing aquatic environments. The presence of lungs may seem surprising. After all, the axolotl spends its life underwater. Yet from time to time, it may rise toward the surface and take a gulp of air. Then it returns once more to the depths, a small reminder of its evolutionary heritage, a connection to ancestors and relatives whose lives involve different relationships with water and land. The natural world is filled with such traces of history, features that reveal ancient connections. The axolotl carries those connections within its body, even as it remains committed to its aquatic lifestyle. As researchers studied these remarkable gills over the years, they gained deeper appreciation for their complexity. What appears simple from a distance is actually the product of intricate biological organization. Thousands of microscopic structures working together. Cells, blood vessels, membranes, all cooperating to support life. Yet despite this complexity, the overall impression remains one of simplicity. Beauty often works that way. The underlying details may be extraordinarily complicated, but the final result appears effortless. A flower blooming in a field, a bird gliding through the sky, an axolotl resting beneath the water. Nature rarely announces the complexity hidden within such scenes. It simply allows them to exist. Imagine the canal growing quieter still. The moonlight softens, the aquatic plants sway gently. Tiny particles drift through the water like underwater dust illuminated by faint silver light. The axolotl remains nearby, its gills moving softly with each current. There is no urgency, no struggle. Only the quiet continuation of life, breath following breath, moment following moment, hour following hour. Perhaps there is something comforting about realizing how many living things survive through cooperation with their environment rather than domination of it. The axolotl does not force oxygen from the water. It works with natural processes. Its gills provide the necessary surface. The water provides the oxygen. Together they sustain life. A partnership refined across countless generations. The longer we observe these feathery structures, the more they seem to symbolize the axolotl itself. Gentle but effective, delicate yet resilient, beautiful without trying to be. A perfect reflection of the animal that carries them. Many people remember the axolotl because of its regeneration abilities. Others remember its permanent youthful appearance, but perhaps the gills deserve equal admiration. They represent the creature's connection to water, its commitment to an aquatic existence, its adaptation to a world beneath the surface. Every graceful movement tells part of that story. And every slow sway of the filaments reminds us that life often depends upon processes we rarely notice. As our exploration of the axolotl's gills comes to an end, allow yourself one final image: a quiet canal beneath the starlit sky, moonlight reflecting on still water, aquatic plants drifting softly in the current, and an axolotl moving slowly through the darkness, its feathery gills spreading gently outward like underwater branches touched by silver light. Calm, elegant, timeless, breathing peacefully within the world that shaped it. Yet these beautiful structures are only one part of a much larger mystery, because hidden beneath the axolotl's gentle appearance lies an ability so extraordinary that it continues to astonish scientists around the world. An ability that seems almost impossible: the power to regrow what has been lost, the power to repair what has been damaged, the power to begin again. And in our next chapter, we will explore the remarkable story of the axolotl's extraordinary gift of regeneration. Chapter 7: A Master of Regeneration. As we continue our quiet journey through the hidden world of the axolotl, the water around us remains calm. The moon still hangs above the canals. Soft reflections drift across the surface. Aquatic plants sway gently beneath the darkness. And somewhere below, our small companion continues its slow and peaceful movement through the water. At first glance, the axolotl appears delicate. Its body seems fragile. Its gentle expression suggests vulnerability rather than strength. Nothing about its appearance hints at extraordinary abilities. Nothing suggests that this quiet amphibian possesses one of the most remarkable biological gifts ever discovered. Yet beneath its peaceful exterior lies a mystery that has fascinated scientists for more than a century. A mystery so extraordinary that it sometimes sounds more like science fiction than reality. The ability to regenerate, the ability to rebuild, the ability to replace what has been lost. When most people hear the word regeneration, they imagine something simple. Perhaps a cut healing over time, perhaps damaged skin gradually repairing itself. After all, humans possess limited regenerative abilities of our own. Small injuries heal, bones mend after fractures. The body continuously repairs itself in countless ways. But what the axolotl can do extends far beyond ordinary healing, far beyond what most animals can accomplish. Imagine losing an arm, not merely injuring it, not damaging it, losing it entirely. For most vertebrates, such a loss would be permanent. The body would heal the wound, scar tissue would form, life would continue.
But the missing structure would never return. The axolotl follows a very different path. If it loses a limb, it can grow a new one, not a rough replacement, not an imperfect substitute. A new limb complete with bones, muscles,
Blood vessels, nerves, and skin. A structure that closely resembles the original. A structure capable of functioning normally. And perhaps most astonishing of all, this process can occur more than once. Throughout its life, the axolotl can repeatedly regenerate lost limbs with remarkable success. For scientists, this discovery was astonishing. For centuries, regeneration had seemed limited in most complex animals. Yet here was a vertebrate demonstrating abilities that challenged conventional assumptions about biology. The more researchers investigated, the more extraordinary the picture became. It soon became clear that regeneration in the axolotl was not limited to limbs alone. The list of regenerative capabilities continued growing. Parts of the tail could regenerate. Sections of the spinal cord could regenerate. Certain portions of the heart could regenerate. Even parts of the brain demonstrate impressive regenerative potential. Each new discovery deepened the mystery. How could a single animal possess such abilities? How does its body know what to rebuild? How does it recreate structures of such complexity? These questions continue to inspire research even today. Yet before we explore the science too deeply, let us pause and simply appreciate the wonder of the phenomenon itself. Imagine the underwater world where the axolotl lives. A place filled with reeds, aquatic plants, and quiet currents. Life unfolds beneath the surface every day. Predators appear, accidents happen, injuries occur. Nature can be unpredictable. For many creatures, serious damage represents a permanent setback. For the axolotl, however, injury often becomes the beginning of a remarkable rebuilding process. The body responds not with surrender, but with renewal, not with permanent loss, but with restoration. There is something almost poetic about that idea. A creature whose response to damage is not merely repair, but recreation, as though nature itself had discovered a way to begin again. Imagine a small wound appearing on an axolotl's limb. At first, the body's immediate priority is protection. The wound closes. Cells move into the area. A complex sequence of biological events begins unfolding. Yet unlike many animals which quickly form scar tissue, the axolotl takes a different approach. Instead of creating a permanent scar, it begins constructing the foundation for regeneration. Specialized cells gather at the site. Structures begin organizing. Signals travel between tissues. The body starts preparing for reconstruction, slowly, patiently, methodically. Over time, new growth appears. The missing structures gradually return. Bones reform. Muscles develop. Blood vessels reconnect. Nerves extend into the new tissue. What was once absent begins to exist again. The process is neither instant nor magical. It unfolds over weeks and months. Yet its outcome remains extraordinary, a restored limb emerging from a carefully orchestrated biological process. As researchers observed these events, they became increasingly fascinated. Each stage revealed layers of complexity. Each discovery raised new questions. The axolotl was not merely healing. It was demonstrating capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about regenerative biology. The implications extended far beyond amphibians. If scientists could understand how regeneration works in the axolotl, perhaps they might uncover principles relevant to human medicine as well. The possibility was exciting, and it remains exciting today. Yet despite decades of research, many mysteries remain unsolved. Nature rarely reveals all her secrets at once. Some answers emerge slowly, patiently, just as regeneration itself unfolds. The axolotl continues reminding researchers that biology still contains countless surprises. As we drift quietly through this chapter, imagine once again the calm canals beneath the moonlight. The water remains still. The aquatic plants move gently. An axolotl glides among them. Nothing about its appearance reveals the extraordinary processes hidden within its cells. It does not advertise its abilities. It does not display them dramatically. The potential exists quietly beneath the surface, invisible, waiting. Nature often works this way. The most remarkable capabilities are not always the most obvious. Sometimes extraordinary power resides within ordinary appearances. A seed contains a future tree. A tiny egg contains a future bird. And within the axolotl exists a biological toolkit capable of achievements that continue to astonish science. There is something comforting about this hidden complexity. A reminder that the world remains richer than it first appears. That mysteries still exist. That wonder survives even in an age of advanced technology. The axolotl invites us to remain curious. To recognize that understanding is always incomplete. To appreciate how much remains to be discovered. For generations, people looked upon the axolotl and saw a curious aquatic creature. Today, researchers see something more. A living laboratory, a source of insight, a key to questions that may one day transform medicine. Yet the animal itself remains unchanged. It continues drifting through water as its ancestors did before it. Unaware of scientific papers, unaware of research projects, unaware of the fascination it inspires, its life follows ancient rhythms. The regeneration happens naturally, not as a miracle, not as an experiment, simply as part of being an axolotl. Perhaps that perspective makes the story even more remarkable. What seems extraordinary to us is ordinary for the animal. What appears miraculous is simply biology. What inspires awe in laboratories occurs quietly beneath moonlit waters. Imagine now that the canal has grown even quieter. The night deepens, the stars appear brighter, the reflections shimmer softly above. The axolotl rests among aquatic plants, its feathery gills sway gently, its body remains motionless. Yet within that small body lies one of nature's most extraordinary gifts, the ability to rebuild, the ability to recover, the ability to create anew, a gift shaped by millions of years of evolution, a gift still not fully understood, and perhaps that mystery is part of its beauty. Some questions deserve time, some discoveries unfold gradually, some wonders reveal themselves layer by layer. The axolotl's regenerative abilities belong to that category. The deeper we explore them, the more fascinating they become. Yet regeneration itself is only part of the story. Knowing that the axolotl can regrow lost structures naturally leads to another question. How does this remarkable process actually work? What happens inside the body during regeneration? How do cells know what to build? How does the animal recreate something as complex as a limb? In our next chapter, we will move deeper into this mystery. We will explore the hidden biological processes that make regeneration possible. And we will discover that beneath the apparent simplicity of the axolotl lies one of the most elegant healing systems ever observed in the natural world. Chapter 8. The Secret of Healing. As the night grows deeper, and the world beyond our story becomes quieter and quieter, let us continue our journey into one of the greatest mysteries hidden within the axolotl. The water remains calm. Moonlight drifts softly across the canals. Aquatic plants sway in gentle currents. And somewhere beneath the surface, an axolotl rests among the shadows, peaceful, still, unaware that within its small body lies a biological process that has fascinated generations of scientists. In our previous chapter, we discovered that the axolotl possesses the remarkable ability to regenerate lost structures. A limb can return, a damaged tail can regrow, even parts of complex organs can be restored. But tonight, we move deeper into the mystery. Not simply asking what the axolotl can do, but asking how it does it. What secret allows this quiet amphibian to rebuild what has been lost? What happens beneath the surface when regeneration begins? The answer, as is often the case in nature, is both beautiful and complex. Yet, at its heart, the process begins with something surprisingly simple, a response to injury. Imagine once more that an axolotl experiences damage to one of its limbs. Perhaps through an accident, perhaps through an encounter with another animal. The exact cause matters less than what follows. The body immediately recognizes that something has changed. Signals begin traveling through nearby tissues. Cells respond. The healing process begins.
In many animals, including humans, the body's first priority is to close the wound as quickly as possible. This response is essential. It protects against infection and it limits further damage, and it allows recovery to begin. However, the result is often scar tissue, a practical solution, an effective solution, but not a perfect restoration. The original structure remains lost. The body chooses stability over reconstruction. The axolotl follows a different path. Instead of relying heavily upon permanent scar formation, it creates conditions that allow rebuilding to occur. And this difference lies at the heart of its extraordinary regenerative abilities. For a short time after injury, something remarkable begins happening near the damaged area. Cells that once performed highly specialized tasks begin changing their behavior. They become more flexible, more adaptable, almost as though they are temporarily remembering an earlier stage of life, a stage when building and growth were still underway. Scientists sometimes describe this process as a return to a more primitive developmental state. Not primitive in the sense of being simple, but primitive in the sense of reconnecting with ancient biological programs that guide growth and construction. Imagine skilled builders arriving at a damaged structure. Before rebuilding can begin, they must first understand what needs to be restored. They gather materials, organize plans, prepare the site. Only then can reconstruction proceed. Something similar occurs within the axolotl. The body assembles a special collection of cells near the injury. Researchers refer to this structure as a blastema. The word may sound technical, but the concept is surprisingly elegant. The blastema functions as a kind of biological construction zone, a place where regeneration can begin, a place where cells communicate, organize, and prepare for rebuilding. Within this region, countless interactions unfold. Chemical signals move from one cell to another. Genes become active, instructions are exchanged. The body begins coordinating one of the most sophisticated repair processes in the natural world, and all of it happens silently. Without conscious thought, without effort, nature simply follows instructions refined through millions of years of evolution. The more scientists studied the blastema, the more fascinated they became. How does it know whether to rebuild a finger, a muscle, a blood vessel, or an entire limb? How do individual cells coordinate such enormous complexity? How does the body avoid confusion? These questions remain active areas of research. Yet one thing has become increasingly clear. Regeneration is not random. It is highly organized. The axolotl's body possesses an extraordinary ability to manage information. Every structure has a place. Every tissue follows a plan. Every stage unfolds according to carefully regulated biological signals. Imagine constructing an entire building without blueprints. The task would be nearly impossible. Yet somehow the axolotl repeatedly rebuilds complex structures with astonishing accuracy. The instructions exist within the biology itself, hidden within cells, encoded within developmental systems shaped over countless generations. There is something deeply remarkable about that idea. A complete set of construction plans existing invisibly within a living organism, waiting quietly until needed. As researchers continued exploring regeneration, another fascinating observation emerged. The axolotl does not merely replace tissue, it often recreates structures with extraordinary precision. Bones return in the correct arrangement, muscles reconnect appropriately, blood vessels form functional networks. Nerves extend into new tissue. The result is not simply healing, it is restoration, a distinction that continues to inspire scientific curiosity. Imagine the calm canal once more. The water drifts softly around submerged plants. Tiny creatures move through the shadows. An axolotl glides peacefully nearby. Nothing about its appearance reveals the incredible cellular activity hidden within its body. Yet every regenerative event depends upon countless microscopic interactions unfolding in perfect coordination. Nature often hides its greatest achievements at scales invisible to the naked eye. A forest depends upon roots underground. A flower depends upon cellular processes hidden within its petals. and the axolotl's regenerative abilities depend upon intricate biological conversations taking place constantly beneath the surface. The more we learn, the more we realize how much remains unknown. Modern science has uncovered many pieces of the puzzle. Researchers have identified important signaling molecules. They have studied genes involved in regeneration. They have observed the behavior of specialized cells. Yet the complete picture remains incomplete. Some mysteries continue resisting easy explanation, and perhaps that is part of what makes the axolotl so captivating. Even after decades of study, it still has secrets to share. There is something comforting about knowing that wonder still exists within the natural world, that not everything has been fully explained. That curiosity remains valuable. The axolotl reminds us of this every time scientists uncover a new detail about its biology. Each answer leads to additional questions. Each discovery reveals further complexity. The journey of understanding continues. As the night deepens around us, imagine the regeneration process unfolding slowly. Not in dramatic flashes, not in moments of instant transformation, but gradually, patiently, day after day, week after week, cells dividing, structures forming, connections reappearing, life rebuilding itself one small step at a time. The process reflects a broader truth found throughout nature. Many extraordinary achievements occur slowly. Forests grow gradually. Mountains change over ages. Rivers shape landscapes through persistence rather than speed. The axolotl's regeneration follows the same principle. It is not the product of haste. It is the product of patient biological craftsmanship. There is something almost meditative about imagining this quiet reconstruction. The body working steadily, without anxiety, without urgency, simply following ancient instructions. Trusting the process, allowing time to do its work. Perhaps that image carries a lesson beyond biology. Many forms of healing require patience. Growth often occurs gradually. Recovery frequently unfolds in ways we cannot immediately see. The axolotl embodies that principle beautifully. Its greatest gift is not speed. Its greatest gift is the ability to rebuild, and rebuilding always takes time. Now the canal grows quieter still. The moon rises higher, reflections shimmer softly above. The water remains calm. The axolotl rests among aquatic plants. Its feathery gills sway gently with the current. And hidden within its body remains one of nature's most elegant healing systems, a system capable of transforming injury into renewal, damage into reconstruction, loss into possibility. Yet even after exploring the secret of regeneration, another fascinating question remains. What role does this extraordinary ability play in the daily life of the axolotl? How does it survive in the wild? What challenges does it face beneath the surface? And how does it find food within its underwater world? In our next chapter, we will leave the microscopic world of cells and regeneration behind for a while. Instead, we will accompany the axolotl on one of its nightly adventures, a quiet hunt unfolding beneath moonlit waters. A story of patience, instinct, and survival in the hidden world below the surface. Chapter 9. Hunting in Slow Motion. As the night settles even deeper, and the world above the water becomes quieter with each passing moment, we return once again to the axolotl's hidden world. A world that does not rush, a world that does not demand urgency, a world where survival is not always about speed, but about patience, timing, and awareness. The canals lie still under a soft blanket of moonlight. Shadows drift gently beneath the surface. Aquatic plants sway in slow-motion currents, and somewhere in this quiet underwater landscape, an axolotl begins to move, not with sudden energy, not with frantic motion, but with calm intention, a slow, deliberate journey through its environment. Tonight, we follow it. We observe how it finds food, how it senses movement, how it survives in a world where everything happens just beneath the surface. The axolotl is often described as a predator, but this word can be misleading if we imagine it in dramatic terms. There is nothing fierce or aggressive in the way it hunts. Instead, its behavior is closer to quiet observation, a patient waiting, a careful response to opportunity. It does not chase its prey across long distances. It does not engage in prolonged pursuit. Instead, it relies on timing, on subtle detection, on the ability to sense even the smallest disturbance in the water. Imagine floating alongside it. The water is dim. Light from above barely reaches the depths. Visibility is limited. Shapes appear and disappear within shifting shadows. In this environment, sight alone is not enough. The axolotl relies on a combination of senses. Its vision helps it detect movement. But even more important is its ability to feel the world around it. Tiny vibrations travel through water. A slight ripple, a gentle shift, the movement of a small creature nearby. To the axolotl, these signals are meaningful. They reveal presence, direction, possibility. Life in the underwater world is built upon such subtle communication. Prey animals move carefully among plants. Small worms, insect larvae, tiny crustaceans, and other aquatic organisms drift through the environment. Many of them are almost invisible unless one knows where to look. They blend into the background of the canal. They remain still when possible. They move only when necessary. And yet, even the smallest motion can reveal their presence. The axolotl waits, often motionless, its body blending into the aquatic environment, its gills gently swaying with the current, its limbs resting against the soft substrate below. At first glance, nothing appears to be happening, but beneath this stillness lies constant awareness. The axolotl is not inactive, it is observing, listening, sensing, prepared, and then, at just the right moment, something changes. A faint movement in the water, a slight disturbance among the plants, a subtle vibration reaching its sensory system. The axolotl responds, slowly, deliberately. It shifts its position. Its tail produces a gentle wave. Its body glides forward with minimal effort. There is no rush, no sudden acceleration, only a smooth transition from stillness to motion. In many predators, hunting is associated with speed, with force, with dramatic pursuit. But the axolotl's approach is different. It is closer to precision than power, closer to patience than aggression. It moves through its environment like a drifting shadow, each movement carefully measured, each action guided by subtle cues from the surrounding water. When it finally reaches its target, the moment is brief. A quick opening of the mouth, a sudden intake of water, and the prey is captured. There is no struggle, no extended chase. Just a simple, efficient action. Nature often favors efficiency over spectacle. After the capture, the axolotl returns to stillness, as if nothing has changed, as if the moment of action was simply another part of its quiet routine. It resumes drifting, resumes observing, resumes existing within the rhythm of the water. This cycle repeats throughout the night, periods of waiting, brief moments of movement, small successes followed by silence. It is a lifestyle built around conservation of energy. In the underwater world, energy is precious. Food is not always abundant. Opportunities are not always predictable. So the axolotl adapts by minimizing unnecessary effort. It does not waste movement. It does not overextend. It remains ready, but not restless. There is something deeply calming about this approach to survival. A reminder that not all action needs to be constant. Not all progress requires speed. Sometimes success depends on waiting for the right moment. As we follow the axolotl through its nightly hunt, the environment around it continues to shift subtly. Small fish dart between shadows. Insects drift near the surface. Aquatic larvae cling to submerged plants. Life exists everywhere, but often hidden. The axolotl moves through this world like a quiet observer of patterns, learning the rhythms of its environment, understanding where life tends to gather, recognizing where movement is most likely to appear. Over time, this awareness becomes instinctive. The axolotl does not think in human terms. It does not plan in advance. It responds instantly, naturally, as though the water itself is guiding its actions. Imagine the sensation of being immersed in such a world, where every ripple carries meaning, where silence is never truly empty, where awareness extends in all directions. The axolotl exists fully within that sensory landscape. Its entire body becomes a tool for understanding its environment. Even its stillness is part of its hunting strategy, because in a world of subtle signals, motion is not always necessary. Sometimes the best way to perceive movement is to remain still. As the night continues, the axolotl may travel slowly through different sections of the canal. It explores familiar paths. It revisits areas where food is more likely to appear. It follows patterns shaped by experience and instinct. There is no map, no fixed route, only memory and sensation, and the water itself, constantly shifting, constantly alive. Occasionally, the axolotl pauses for longer periods. It rests among plants. It remains motionless near the bottom. During these moments, it appears almost invisible, blending seamlessly into its surroundings, a quiet presence within a quiet world. And yet, even in rest, it remains aware, always ready for the next subtle signal, the next ripple, the next opportunity. Time passes differently here, not measured in minutes or hours, but in cycles of movement and stillness, in patterns of light and shadow, in the gentle rhythm of underwater life. As we observe this process, it becomes clear that hunting for the axolotl is not separate from its existence. It is part of it, an integrated aspect of daily life. Just like breathing, just like resting, just like drifting through the water, there is no sharp boundary between survival and existence. They are intertwined. The axolotl does not divide its life into separate activities. It simply lives, and within that life, it finds food when needed. There is a quiet elegance in that simplicity, a reminder that life does not always need complexity to function effectively. Sometimes the most successful strategies are also the most subtle. As the final hours of the night approach, the axolotl's movements become even slower. The canal grows darker, the world above remains distant, and below the surface, the gentle rhythm of survival continues. Stillness, movement, stillness again, a pattern repeated countless times throughout its life. Now, as we begin to leave this chapter behind, we carry with us a deeper understanding of how the axolotl interacts with its world, not through force, not through speed, but through awareness, through patience, through quiet precision. Yet the underwater world is not only about survival and movement, it is also about relationships, about ecosystems, about the many forms of life that share the same waters. In the next chapter, we will explore the hidden world beneath the surface more broadly. The plants, the animals, and the delicate balance that allows creatures like the axolotl to exist in harmony with their environment. Chapter 10. The Hidden World Beneath the Surface. As our journey continues through the quiet waters of the axolotl's world, we gently shift our attention outward, away from the single creature we have followed so closely, and toward the larger world it belongs to, a world that exists just beneath the surface, a world that is often invisible from above. But beneath that calm water lies an entire universe of life, complex, balanced, and quietly interconnected. The canals are still under the night sky. Moonlight reflects in broken patterns across the surface. A soft breeze occasionally disturbs the water, creating ripples that spread outward and fade into darkness. But below that surface, life continues without pause. Aquatic plants stretch upward toward the light. Their roots anchor them into the soft sediment below. Their leaves sway gently with the movement of the water. Some are long and thin, drifting like ribbons. Others are broad and flat, forming quiet underwater forests. These plants are not merely decoration. They are essential. They produce oxygen. They provide shelter. They create structure within the underwater landscape. Without them, the world beneath the water would collapse into emptiness. Among these plants, countless small organisms live their lives. Tiny insects drift along the surface. Larvae cling to submerged stems. Microorganisms move through invisible currents. Each one plays a role, no matter how small. In this hidden world, nothing exists in isolation. Everything is connected.
Everything depends on something else. The axolotl exists within this web of life. It is not separate from it. It is part of it. Imagine floating slowly through this underwater environment. The water is cool and still. Visibility is limited, but shapes emerge in soft focus as you move. Plants rise and fall like gentle waves of green. Small fish move quickly through gaps in vegetation. They appear and disappear in an instant. Their movements are brief but purposeful. They navigate this world with precision, always aware of their surroundings. Nearby, snails crawl along submerged surfaces. Their slow movement contrasts with the quick darting of fish. They leave faint trails as they move through algae-covered stones. Everything moves at its own pace. Everything follows its own rhythm. And yet all of it exists within the same shared space. The axolotl drifts through this environment like a quiet observer. It does not dominate. It does not disrupt. It simply participates, a single presence within a much larger system. The ecosystem of the canal is delicate. Changes in one part affect everything else. If plant life decreases, oxygen levels drop. If insect populations shift, food availability changes. If water conditions alter, the entire balance is affected. And yet, despite this fragility, the system persists. It adapts. It adjusts. It continues. Nature has always worked in this way, through balance rather than control, through interaction rather than isolation. The axolotl benefits from this balance. Its survival depends on it. Food sources must remain available. Water quality must remain stable. Shelter must remain accessible. In return, the axolotl becomes part of the ecosystem's rhythm. It consumes small organisms. It moves nutrients through the environment. It interacts with other species in subtle but important ways. Even its presence influences the balance of the system. Imagine now a quiet moment beneath the surface. The night is deep. The water is still. A small fish moves cautiously between plants. It senses movement nearby and freezes. Silence returns. Only the faint sway of vegetation continues. In another direction, a snail continues its slow journey across a submerged surface, unaware of anything beyond its immediate path. Life continues in overlapping layers of awareness. Some creatures react quickly, others move slowly. Some rely on speed, others rely on stillness. The axolotl exists somewhere between these extremes, neither fast nor completely motionless, neither aggressive nor passive, a balanced presence within the system. One of the most important aspects of this underwater world is its fragility. Everything depends on stability. Even small disruptions can have large consequences over time. A change in water clarity can affect plant growth. A shift in temperature can alter animal behavior. A reduction in oxygen can impact entire populations. And yet, for thousands of years, ecosystems like this have persisted, evolving, adjusting, recovering. Nature has an extraordinary capacity for resilience, but only within certain limits. The axolotl's world is no exception. It depends on a delicate harmony between water, plants, animals, and environmental conditions. When that harmony is maintained, life flourishes. When it is disturbed, balance becomes difficult to restore. As we observe this hidden world, it becomes clear that the axolotl is not the center of the ecosystem. It is one part of a larger whole, a single thread within a vast natural tapestry. Aquatic plants provide oxygen and shelter. Small animals contribute to food chains. Microorganisms break down organic material and recycle nutrients. Each layer supports the others. Each layer depends on the others. The axolotl moves through the system with quiet familiarity. It does not need to understand the complexity of its environment. It simply lives within it, responding to changes, adapting to conditions, following instincts shaped by generations of evolution. There is something deeply calming about this interconnectedness, a reminder that life is rarely isolated, that every living thing exists within a broader network of relationships. Even humans, often removed from direct natural environments, remain part of similar systems. Air, water, food, energy. Everything is connected in ways that are not always visible. The axolotl's world makes this connection easier to see, because everything is close.
Everything is immediate. Everything is part of the same flowing environment. As night continues, the canal grows even quieter. Some creatures become less active. Others remain hidden among plants. The axolotl continues its slow movement through this space, unhurried and observant. It passes through pockets of vegetation. It glides across open areas. It pauses when needed and resumes motion when appropriate. Always in balance with its surroundings, always responding to the subtle cues of the environment. There is no separation between the axolotl and its world. It is shaped by it, and in turn, it helps shape it. This mutual relationship is one of the most important principles of ecology. Every organism influences its environment. Every environment influences its organisms. Over time, this interaction creates systems of remarkable complexity. Systems that are both fragile and resilient, stable and constantly changing. As we reach the end of this chapter, we begin to understand that the axolotl cannot be fully appreciated in isolation. Its life is inseparable from the world it inhabits. The plants, the water, the microorganisms, the shifting currents, the seasonal changes, all of these elements contribute to its existence, and it contributes to them in return. But as rich and interconnected as this underwater world may be, it is not without challenges. Like many ecosystems on Earth, it faces pressures that threaten its balance. Changes that come from both natural and human influences. In the next chapter, we will gently explore these challenges, not with urgency, not with alarm, but with awareness, and with an understanding of what is at stake for the quiet world of the axolotl. Chapter 11. The Axolotl Through the Seasons. As we continue drifting through the quiet waters of this story, the night remains soft and unbroken. The canal lies still beneath the moonlight. Reflections shimmer gently across the surface, and beneath it all, the hidden world of the axolotl continues its slow, timeless rhythm. In the previous chapter, we explored the delicate balance of life beneath the surface, the plants, the small creatures, the interconnected web of existence that allows the axolotl to survive. Tonight, we take another step deeper, not into a new place, but into a new rhythm, the rhythm of time itself, the changing of seasons. Even in a world that feels still and constant beneath the water, time continues to move, subtly, quietly, but always present. The axolotl lives within this flow of time, and although its environment may appear unchanged from moment to moment, it is shaped by cycles far larger than any single night. Seasons come and go, temperatures rise and fall. Water levels shift, light changes its angle across the surface, and life beneath the water responds in subtle ways. Imagine the canal in different parts of the year. In one season, the water is slightly cooler. The air carries a crispness in the early morning hours. Aquatic plants grow more slowly. Movements beneath the surface become more measured. The axolotl adjusts its behavior accordingly. It conserves energy. It moves less frequently. It remains closer to sheltered areas within the vegetation. In another season, the water becomes warmer. Light filters more intensely through the surface during the day. Plant growth increases. Tiny organisms become more active. The underwater world feels slightly more dynamic. In response, the axolotl may become more active as well. It explores more areas of its environment. It encounters more opportunities for feeding. It navigates through shifting patterns of life beneath the surface. Yet even with these seasonal changes, the axolotl's world remains relatively stable compared to life above the water. The canal buffers many of the extremes found in the surrounding land. Water absorbs heat. It releases it slowly. It creates a more gradual experience of change. This stability has shaped the axolotl over countless generations. Its biology is tuned not to sudden shifts, but to gradual transitions, to subtle differences, to patterns that repeat over time. There is something almost comforting about this relationship between the axolotl and its environment. A quiet agreement between organism and world. The seasons change, but they do not overwhelm. They flow gently into one another. One of the most important aspects of seasonal change is its influence on food availability. In different times of the year, certain organisms become more abundant. Small insects may appear in greater numbers. Larvae populations may increase or decrease. Aquatic plants may grow more densely or recede slightly depending on conditions. The axolotl responds to these fluctuations with quiet adaptability. It does not rely on a single constant source of food. Instead, it adjusts its feeding behavior based on what is available. This flexibility is one of the keys to its survival. Nature rarely provides consistency, so survival often depends on adaptation. As we imagine the axolotl moving through different seasons, it becomes clear that its life is deeply connected to timing, not the rigid timing of clocks or schedules,
but the organic timing of nature, the rhythm of growth and decay, the cycle of abundance and scarcity, the flow of environmental change. At night, the canal feels timeless, but in truth, it is always changing. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, and the axolotl moves within that change as if it were part of its natural language. In some seasons, visibility in the water may decrease slightly. Sediments shift. Plant density increases. Light penetration changes. The world becomes more textured, more layered, more complex to navigate. The axolotl relies more heavily on its non-visual senses during these times. Feeling vibrations in the water, sensing movement through subtle pressure changes, interpreting its environment through touch-like awareness rather than clear sight. In other seasons, the water becomes clearer. Light travels farther beneath the surface. Shapes are more easily distinguished. The underwater world feels more open. The axolotl can rely more on visual cues when exploring or hunting. This balance between senses allows it to adapt naturally to shifting conditions. There is no single dominant way of experiencing the world, only different modes that become more or less important depending on circumstances. Another important seasonal factor is temperature. Although the canal moderates extremes, gradual changes still occur throughout the year. These shifts influence metabolism, movement, activity levels. In cooler conditions, the axolotl may slow down. Its movements become more deliberate. Its energy usage decreases. In warmer conditions, activity may increase slightly. Its interactions with the environment become more frequent. Yet even these changes remain subtle compared to the dramatic seasonal shifts seen in many terrestrial environments. The axolotl's world is defined by moderation, by balance, by continuity. As we reflect on this, it becomes easier to understand why this creature has persisted for so long in its environment. It is not dependent on extreme conditions. It is not specialized for rapid change. It is adapted to stability within change, a quiet resilience that allows it to endure through cycles of time. Imagine now a full year passing above the canal. The surface shifts through countless small variations. Rainfall comes and goes. Wind patterns change. Light angles shift across the landscape. And beneath it all, the axolotl continues its life. Unhurried, uninterrupted, unaware of the broader concept of time as humans perceive it. It does not mark days or months. It does not anticipate seasons. It simply responds to the immediate conditions around it, moment by moment. This presence in the immediate moment is one of the most striking aspects of its existence. It does not live in anticipation. It does not dwell on the past. It exists within the present conditions of water, temperature, light, and movement. There is a quiet simplicity in that way of life, one that feels almost meditative when observed from a distance. As we continue through this chapter, it becomes clear that the axolotl is not separate from seasonal change. It is shaped by it, but it is not overwhelmed by it. It moves through time as it moves through water, gently, continuously, without resistance. And perhaps there is something meaningful in that image, a reminder that change does not always need to be dramatic to be significant, that life can continue smoothly even as conditions shift slowly around it. That adaptation often happens quietly, without notice. Now the night grows deeper once again. The canal remains still, the reflections soften, and the axolotl continues its journey through a world shaped by seasons that pass like slow waves beneath the surface. Yet, even as we observe this quiet passage of time, a different challenge begins to emerge in the story of the axolotl, a challenge not from nature alone, but from the changing world above the water. In the next chapter, we will gently explore the difficulties this species faces in the modern world. Not in alarm, but in understanding and in awareness of the fragile balance that sustains its existence. Chapter 12, From Ancient Curiosity to Scientific Wonder. As our journey continues through the quiet waters of the axolotl's world, the night feels deeper now. The canal remains still. The reflections of distant light move gently across the surface, and beneath it all, the axolotl continues its slow, unhurried existence. In the previous chapter, we followed the rhythm of seasons and time. We observed how the axolotl moves through cycles of change without resistance, how its life remains steady even as conditions shift around it. Tonight we shift our focus once more, not to the natural rhythms of its environment, but to the long journey of human discovery, the journey from ancient curiosity to scientific wonder, because the axolotl has not only lived beneath the waters of Mexico for thousands of years, it has also lived within human imagination for just as long before laboratories and microscopes, long before scientific classification systems, long before modern biology as we know it today. People were already noticing this unusual creature. Its appearance was unlike many other animals found in the region. Its feathery gills, its permanent youthful form, its calm, aquatic behavior. All of these traits made it stand out within the ecosystem. And when something stands out in nature, it rarely goes unnoticed by human observers. In ancient times, the axolotl was not studied in the way we study animals today. Instead, it was observed, noted, remembered, and woven into cultural understanding of the natural world. It became part of stories, part of interpretations of nature, part of the way people explained the world around them. As we explored in earlier chapters, the Aztec civilization associated the axolotl with myth and symbolism. But beyond mythology, there was also simple observation. People saw it living in the waters. They saw its unusual form. They saw its ability to survive in aquatic environments where many other creatures lived very different lives, and they remembered it. For centuries, the axolotl remained primarily a creature of local knowledge, known to those who lived near the lakes and canals of central Mexico, familiar to communities that interacted directly with its environment, but unknown to the wider scientific world. That began to change gradually as exploration expanded, as knowledge of the natural world grew, as curiosity about distant ecosystems increased. Eventually, the axolotl began to appear in written records beyond its native habitat. Early naturalists encountered descriptions of this strange amphibian and struggled to classify it within existing biological categories. It did not fit easily into familiar frameworks. It was not quite like a fish, not quite like a reptile, not quite like a typical amphibian as understood at the time. It challenged simple classification, and in doing so, it attracted attention. During the early development of modern biology, scientists began to study organisms more systematically. They collected specimens. They compared anatomical structures. They attempted to organize life into categories based on shared characteristics. Within this growing scientific framework, the axolotl became a subject of increasing interest. It was studied not only for its appearance, but for its unusual developmental traits. Researchers began noticing something particularly strange. Unlike many amphibians, the axolotl did not follow the expected path of transformation. It retained its aquatic features throughout its life. This observation led to questions. Why did it remain in this form? How did its development differ from other species? What biological mechanisms were responsible? At the time, answers were not immediately clear, but the questions themselves marked an important shift. The axolotl was no longer only a curiosity, it was becoming a subject of scientific inquiry. As research continued, the animal began to move from mythological context into laboratory study. Specimens were brought into controlled environments, observations were recorded, experiments were conducted, and slowly, a more detailed understanding began to emerge. Scientists discovered that the axolotl could survive and reproduce without undergoing full metamorphosis. This alone was remarkable. It challenged assumptions about amphibian development. It suggested that nature allowed for more flexibility than previously understood, but this was only the beginning. As interest grew, researchers from different parts of the world began studying the axolotl more closely. They examined its anatomy, its reproduction, its growth patterns, and eventually, its extraordinary regenerative abilities. What had once been a regional curiosity was becoming a global scientific subject, a creature that connected traditional ecological knowledge with modern research. There is something remarkable about this transition, a single species moving from local observation into international scientific importance, from myth and memory into experimental biology, from quiet canals into laboratory tanks. Yet through all of this, the axolotl itself remained unchanged. It continued living in water, continuing its slow, peaceful movements, unaware of the expanding human interest surrounding it. In modern laboratories, axolotls are often kept in carefully controlled conditions. Water temperature is regulated, light cycles are managed, food is provided in consistent amounts. Scientists observe them closely, studying everything from development to regeneration. In these environments, the axolotl has become one of the most studied amphibians in biological research. But even in these controlled settings, something important remains. The essence of the creature is unchanged. Its behavior remains calm. Its movements remain slow and deliberate. Its appearance remains distinctive and almost dreamlike. It continues to inspire curiosity, not through dramatic behavior, but through quiet presence. One of the reasons the axolotl has become so important in science is its unique combination of traits. Its ability to regenerate, its unusual development, its resistance to full metamorphosis. These features make it a valuable model for studying fundamental biological processes that may one day have implications beyond amphibians, beyond even the natural world itself. Yet even as scientists study it in detail, there is still a sense of mystery surrounding the axolotl. Not everything is understood, not every mechanism is fully explained, and perhaps that is part of what continues to draw attention to it. Because in science, as in nature, unanswered questions often lead to the most meaningful discoveries. As we imagine this transition from ancient curiosity to modern science, it becomes clear that the axolotl exists at a unique intersection. It belongs to both worlds, the world of cultural memory and the world of scientific exploration. It has been seen as a symbol, and it has been studied as a biological model. It has inspired stories, and it has contributed to research. Few creatures occupy such a wide range of human attention, and yet, despite all of this attention, its life in the wild continues much as it always has. In the canals and lakes where it evolved, the axolotl still drifts through quiet waters, still moves among plants, still follows ancient rhythms shaped long before human observation began. This continuity is striking. It reminds us that scientific discovery does not change the creature itself. It changes our understanding of it. The axolotl does not become more extraordinary because we study it. It has always been extraordinary. We are simply learning to see it more clearly. As night settles further over the canal, we return once more to this image. A small amphibian moving gently through water, unaware of its place in laboratories, unaware of its role in scientific history, unaware of the growing global fascination it inspires. It simply continues its life, as it always has. And as we move forward into the next chapter, we will shift our attention to one of the most visually striking aspects of the axolotl, its remarkable variety of colors and forms. A quiet exploration of how beauty appears in different expressions within the same species. Chapter 13. Why scientists study axolotls. As the night deepens further and the world beyond our story fades into a softer silence, we continue our journey through the quiet waters of understanding. The canal remains still beneath the moonlight. Reflections drift gently across the surface like fragments of a distant dream. And somewhere below, the axolotl continues its peaceful existence,
unaware of the growing attention it receives from human science. In the previous chapter, we followed the path of discovery. We saw how this small amphibian moved from ancient curiosity into modern laboratories, from myth and observation into structured scientific study. Tonight, we ask a different question, not how the axolotl was discovered, but why it continues to fascinate scientists around the world. Because among all the creatures studied in biology, few have captured scientific attention quite like the axolotl. At first glance, it may not seem obvious why. It is small, it is quiet, it lives beneath the surface of water, far from dramatic displays of behavior. But beneath that calm exterior lies a combination of biological traits that make it uniquely valuable to science. To understand this, we must once again return to its most remarkable abilities: the ability to regenerate, the ability to retain juvenile characteristics throughout life, the ability to survive and reproduce in a form that differs from most other amphibians. Each of these traits, on its own, would be interesting. Together, they form a biological profile that is almost unmatched in the animal kingdom. Scientists study the axolotl for many reasons, but perhaps the most important reason is simple curiosity, a desire to understand how life works at its most fundamental level. The axolotl provides an opportunity to explore questions that are difficult to study in other organisms. Questions about growth, about development, about healing, about the limits of biological repair. When researchers observe regeneration in the axolotl, they are not simply watching an animal recover from injury. They are witnessing a process that challenges assumptions about what is possible in vertebrate biology. In most mammals, including humans, regeneration is limited. Wounds heal, tissues repair, but complex structures rarely return once lost. A damaged limb does not regrow. A severed nerve does not fully reconstruct itself. The body prioritizes stability over complete restoration. The axolotl, however, demonstrates a different approach. It shows that under the right conditions, regeneration can go far beyond basic healing. This opens an important scientific question. Why is this possible in the axolotl but not in most other animals? To explore this question, scientists study its cells, its genes, its developmental processes. They look for patterns that might explain how regeneration is controlled. They examine how tissues respond to injury, how cells communicate, how biological instructions are activated and regulated. The axolotl becomes, in this sense, a living model system, a natural experiment that helps researchers understand fundamental principles of biology. But regeneration is only one part of its scientific importance. Another key reason scientists study the axolotl lies in its unusual development. As we have explored in earlier chapters, the axolotl does not undergo full metamorphosis in the way many other amphibians do. Instead, it retains its aquatic features throughout its life. This phenomenon provides valuable insight into developmental biology. It raises questions about how organisms grow and change over time. What signals determine when a body should transform? What prevents certain changes from occurring? What allows others to proceed? By studying the axolotl, scientists gain a clearer understanding of how developmental pathways are regulated, how timing is controlled, how biological systems decide when to activate specific changes. These are not simple questions. They are deeply complex processes involving multiple layers of genetic and cellular interaction, and yet, the axolotl offers a way to study them in a relatively accessible form. Another reason for scientific interest is the axolotl's genetic structure. Its genome is remarkably large compared to many other amphibians. This complexity provides a rich source of information for researchers studying gene function and regulation. Within its DNA, scientists search for clues about regeneration, development, and cellular communication. Each discovery adds another piece to a much larger puzzle, one that may eventually help explain not only how the axolotl works, but how similar processes might function in other species. There is also a practical dimension to this research. While the axolotl itself is not directly related to human medicine, the biological principles it reveals may one day contribute to advances in regenerative medicine. If scientists can understand how regeneration is controlled at the cellular level, it may open new possibilities for healing in other organisms. This does not mean that humans will suddenly regrow limbs or organs. Such ideas belong more to imagination than current reality. But incremental advances in understanding can lead to meaningful improvements in medicine over time. And the axolotl plays a role in that process by providing a natural example of extensive regeneration. Yet despite all of this scientific importance, there is something important to remember. The axolotl is not aware of its role in research. It does not participate in experiments with intention. It does not exist for the benefit of science. It simply lives. In its natural environment, it continues its quiet routine, drifting through water, sensing its surroundings, finding food, avoiding danger, following the rhythms of its ecosystem. The scientific significance we assign to it is a human perspective, a way of interpreting its existence. But the animal itself remains unchanged by that interpretation. This distinction is important because it reminds us that scientific study is not about redefining nature, it is about understanding it. The axolotl does not become more valuable because it is studied. It is already inherently valuable as part of the natural world. As we continue through this chapter, it becomes clear that the axolotl represents something larger than itself. It is a bridge between observation and understanding, between nature and knowledge, between what exists in the wild and what is explored in laboratories. It connects ancient ecosystems to modern science. It connects biological mystery to human curiosity. And perhaps most importantly, it continues to challenge assumptions about what life is capable of. In a world where so much seems to be understood, the axolotl reminds us that there is still more to learn, still more to discover, still more questions waiting to be asked. As night settles further around the canal, we return once more to the image that has accompanied us throughout this journey. A small, quiet creature moving through water, unaware of the complexity of human study surrounding it, yet carrying within its body some of the most fascinating biological processes known to science. And as we move forward into the next chapter, we will turn our attention to another dimension of its beauty, a world of colors, variations, and forms, a quiet exploration of how a single species can appear in many different expressions while remaining fundamentally the same. Chapter 14. Rare Colors and Beautiful Variations. As the night continues its slow and gentle passage, the world beyond our story fades into deeper silence. The canal remains calm beneath the soft glow of moonlight. The surface of the water reflects faint patterns of silver and shadow. And somewhere below, the axolotl continues its quiet journey through an underwater world that has shaped its existence for thousands of years. In the previous chapter, we explored why scientists are so fascinated by this remarkable creature. We saw how its biology offers clues about regeneration, development, and the hidden processes of life. Tonight we turn towards something more visible, something more immediate, something that first captures attention even before biology or science enters the mind. Its appearance, more specifically, the different colors and variations in which the axolotl can be found. Because although many people imagine the axolotl as a single familiar image, the truth is far more diverse. Within this species exists a quiet spectrum of forms, each one carrying the same underlying biology, yet each one expressing itself in a slightly different visual way. At its core, the axolotl found in the wild typically displays a dark, earthy coloration. Shades of brown, gray, olive, sometimes even black. These colors are not random. They serve a purpose. In the natural environment of canals, lakes, and aquatic vegetation, these tones provide camouflage. They allow the axolotl to blend into its surroundings, to remain less visible to predators, to move quietly through its environment without drawing attention. In the dim light beneath the water, this coloration becomes especially effective. Shadows, plants, and sediment all merge into a complex visual landscape. And within that landscape, the axolotl's natural coloring offers protection. But beyond the wild form, there are other variations that have captured human fascination. Some of these variations are the result of natural genetic differences. Others have become more common through captive breeding and scientific study. One of the most well-known forms is the pale or leucistic axolotl. This variation appears almost luminous compared to the wild type. Its body is light pink or white. Its skin appears soft and translucent, and its gills often display vibrant shades of red or pink. This striking contrast creates an appearance that feels almost otherworldly, as if the creature belongs to a different environment entirely. Yet despite its unusual coloring, it is the same species, the same biology, the same internal structure, only the external expression differs. Another variation that often draws attention is the albino axolotl. In this form, pigmentation is significantly reduced or absent. The result is an even lighter appearance, often with golden or reddish eyes that stand out against its pale body. This variation gives the axolotl an even more delicate and dreamlike presence. In the soft light of an aquarium or controlled environment, it can appear almost glowing. A quiet reminder of how genetic variation can shape perception. There are also golden albino variations. These axolotls display warm yellow or golden tones across their bodies. Their coloration can shift slightly depending on lighting conditions and environment, sometimes appearing more subdued, other times more vivid. Each variation reveals something different about how pigmentation functions within the species, yet it is important to remember that these differences are only skin deep. Beneath the surface, all axolotls share the same essential biology, the same regenerative abilities, the same developmental characteristics, the same connection to their aquatic world. The diversity we observe is an expression of genetic variation rather than fundamental difference. In many ways, this diversity reflects a broader principle found throughout nature: variation within unity, difference within sameness. The natural world rarely produces exact copies. Instead, it produces ranges, gradients, subtle distinctions that create richness within species. Even among humans, no two individuals are exactly alike. Differences in appearance, structure, and biology exist at every level. The axolotl simply makes this diversity more visually apparent. Because its variations are so striking, they have become popular in human culture, especially in recent years. When images of axolotls began spreading widely through digital media, people were drawn to their unusual appearance, their soft expressions, their gentle features, their almost fictional quality. Some even compared them to mythical creatures or fantasy characters, yet despite this perception, they remain entirely real, living organisms shaped by natural processes. Another interesting aspect of axolotl variation is how it appears in different lighting conditions. Because of their translucent skin and exposed gill structures, their appearance can shift depending on environment. In darker water, they may appear more muted. In brighter conditions, their colors become more pronounced. In certain angles of light, their bodies seem almost glowing. This variability adds to their visual appeal. It creates a sense of movement even when the animal is still, a subtle interplay between light, water, and biology. As we imagine the axolotl moving through its natural habitat, it becomes clear that these variations are not just aesthetic details. They influence how the animal is perceived by others in its environment. They affect camouflage, visibility, interaction with surroundings. In the wild, appearance is never purely decorative. It is functional. Every trait is shaped by survival pressures over time. Even subtle differences in pigmentation can influence how effectively an animal blends into its environment. But in human observation, these variations take on additional meaning. They become symbols of beauty, curiosity, uniqueness. People often assign emotional value to appearance, especially when something feels unusual or unexpected. The axolotl, with its wide range of forms, naturally invites such interpretation. Yet, from a biological perspective, all these variations are simply expressions of genetic diversity, different pathways of the same underlying design. There is something calming in recognizing this balance. That diversity does not mean separation. That variation does not mean difference in essence, that many forms can arise from a single foundation. As we continue through this chapter, imagine once again the quiet canal beneath the night sky. The water is still, the reflections are soft, and somewhere below, an axolotl moves gently through the darkness. Its exact appearance may shift depending on light and angle. Its colors may appear different from moment to moment, but its life remains constant, unchanged by variation, steady within its environment, a reminder that beneath surface differences there is continuity. And as we move forward into the next chapter, we begin to approach a more serious theme, one that reflects the changing world beyond these quiet waters. Because while the axolotl continues its ancient rhythms beneath the surface, the environment around it has not remained unchanged. Human activity, environmental pressure, and ecological shifts have begun to affect its natural habitat. In the next chapter, we will gently explore these quiet challenges, not as a story of urgency, but as a story of awareness and understanding. Chapter 15. A Fragile Home. As the night deepens further, the world beyond our story grows quieter still. The canal remains still beneath a soft, distant moonlight. The surface of the water barely moves, disturbed only by the faintest whisper of wind. And beneath that calm surface, the axolotl continues its slow and quiet existence. But tonight, something feels slightly different. Not in the creature itself. It remains as it has always been, gentle, steady, unaware of the larger forces shaping the world around it. The difference lies in the environment, the home it depends upon. In previous chapters, we explored the axolotl's biology, its behavior, and its unique place within the natural world. We saw how it lives in balance with its ecosystem, how it moves through water shaped by plants, animals, and seasonal rhythms. But now, we turn toward a more delicate subject, the condition of its home, because even the most peaceful environments are not untouched by change. And even the most stable ecosystems can become fragile over time. The axolotl's natural habitat is not a single place. It is a network of interconnected waters, canals, lakes, wetlands, slow-moving aquatic systems that once stretched across wide regions. These environments formed the foundation of its existence. They provided shelter, food, stability, a place where life could unfold at its own rhythm. But over time, these environments have begun to change. Not suddenly, not in a single moment, but gradually, almost imperceptibly, like water slowly reshaping stone. One of the most significant changes has been the reduction of natural wetland areas. Places that were once rich with aquatic vegetation have become smaller, more fragmented, less connected. Urban expansion has altered the landscape above the water. New structures, new pathways, new demands on land and resources. As the surface world changes, the water below is affected as well. Water quality can shift, flow patterns can change. Natural balance becomes more difficult to maintain. The axolotl, however, does not perceive these changes in human terms. It does not understand cities. It does not understand development. It does not understand environmental planning or land use. It only experiences the immediate conditions of its surroundings, the clarity of the water, the presence of plants, the availability of food, the safety of shelter. To the axolotl, these are the realities that matter. But when these conditions begin to shift, even slightly, the effects can be felt throughout its world. Aquatic plants may become less abundant in some areas. Sediment levels may increase. Oxygen balance may fluctuate. Small organisms that form the base of the food chain may change in number or distribution. Each of these changes is subtle on its own, but together they reshape the environment over time. One of the most important aspects of the axolotl's survival is stability. It thrives in conditions that remain relatively consistent, environments where change happens slowly and predictably. When stability decreases, life becomes more uncertain. Not impossible, but more challenging. There is something quietly sobering about this reality.
Because the axolotl itself is not fragile in the biological sense, its body is resilient. Its regenerative abilities are extraordinary. Its adaptations are well suited to its aquatic world. But even the most resilient organisms depend on the stability of their environment. A strong species cannot exist without a strong habitat. As we imagine the canals and lakes where the axolotl lives, it becomes clear that these systems are part of a larger balance. Water is not isolated. It is connected to land, to weather patterns, to human activity, to countless small processes that together shape the conditions of life. When one part of the system changes, the rest responds, sometimes immediately, sometimes slowly, but always inevitably. In some areas where axolotls once thrived, populations have become more limited, not because the species has lost its biological abilities, but because its environment has changed around it. This distinction is important. It shifts the focus from the organism to the ecosystem, from individual survival to collective balance, and it reminds us that preserving life often means preserving the conditions that support it. As we continue through this chapter, it is important to maintain a calm perspective. This is not a story of collapse, nor is it a story of urgency. It is a story of awareness, of understanding how delicate natural systems can be, and how easily balance can shift when conditions change. Even small disruptions can accumulate over time. A slight increase in temperature, a gradual reduction in plant life, a change in water flow. Each of these factors may seem minor on its own. But within a living ecosystem, small changes can have wide effects. The axolotl continues to adapt within these conditions, as it has always done, through movement, through behavior, through biological flexibility. But adaptation has limits, and environments must also support the organisms within them. There is a quiet relationship between life and place, between creature and habitat, between survival and stability. As we observe the axolotl drifting through its watery world, it remains as peaceful as ever. Its gills sway gently. Its movements are slow and deliberate. It does not resist change. It responds to it. But the world around it is shifting in ways that are not always visible from the surface. And that is what makes this moment in its story important, not because something dramatic is happening, but because subtle changes are taking place beneath the calm surface of the water. As the night continues, the canal remains still. The axolotl moves quietly through its environment, unaware of the broader forces shaping its future. Yet still part of the same system that connects all living things within this ecosystem. And as we move forward into the next chapter, we will explore something more hopeful. The ways in which people have begun to understand this fragile balance, and the efforts that exist to protect and preserve the world of the axolotl, not through urgency, but through care, and through recognition of what makes this small creature so important to the natural world. Chapter 16. Efforts to protect the axolotl. As the night grows deeper and softer, the world beyond our story settles into silence. The canal remains calm beneath the pale glow of the moon. The water reflects faint traces of light, broken into gentle shifting patterns. And beneath that surface, the axolotl continues its quiet journey, moving through a world it has known for countless generations. In the previous chapter, we explored the fragile nature of its home. We saw how the environment has slowly changed over time, how balance can shift without sudden disruption, and how even subtle changes in water, plants, and habitat can influence the life that depends on them. Tonight, we turn towards something more hopeful, a response to that fragility, a quiet effort to understand, protect, and preserve. Because while the axolotl's natural habitat has changed, it has not been forgotten. In fact, it has become a focus of growing attention among scientists, conservationists, and communities who recognize its importance. Not only as a species, but as a symbol of a delicate ecosystem, efforts to protect the axolotl begin with understanding where it lives, how it survives, what conditions it requires, and what factors threaten its existence in the wild? These questions form the foundation of conservation work, because before protection can happen, knowledge must come first. One of the key areas of focus has been habitat restoration. This involves studying the remaining natural environments where axolotls still exist: canals, wetlands, freshwater systems that have survived despite environmental change. Researchers carefully observe these areas, measuring water quality, monitoring plant growth, tracking changes in temperature and flow. Each piece of information helps build a clearer picture of what the axolotl needs to survive in its natural environment. But conservation is not only about observation, it is also about action. In some regions, efforts have been made to restore aquatic vegetation. Plants are essential to the ecosystem. They provide oxygen. They stabilize sediment. They create shelter for small organisms. And they form the foundation of the food web that supports species like the axolotl. Restoring these plants helps rebuild the structure of the environment itself. Another important aspect of conservation is water quality. Clean water is essential for the axolotl's survival. Pollution, sediment changes, and chemical imbalances can all affect its ability to thrive. Because the axolotl relies on its external gills and skin for respiration, it is especially sensitive to changes in water conditions. This sensitivity makes it both vulnerable and valuable as an indicator species, an organism that reflects the health of its ecosystem. When the axolotl is thriving, it often suggests that the environment is in balance. When it struggles, it may indicate broader ecological issues. In addition to habitat restoration, captive breeding programs have become an important part of conservation efforts. In controlled environments, axolotls can be carefully observed and maintained under stable conditions. These programs help preserve genetic diversity. They also provide opportunities for scientific study without placing additional pressure on wild populations. In these settings, the axolotl continues to display its remarkable traits: its calm behavior, its regenerative abilities, its distinctive appearance. But within these environments, it is also protected from many of the challenges found in the wild. Captive populations are not a replacement for natural ecosystems, but they serve as a safeguard, a way to ensure that the species does not disappear entirely if wild populations decline further. At the same time, researchers continue to study how axolotls might be supported in their natural habitat. This includes understanding how water systems can be managed more sustainably, how urban development can be balanced with ecological preservation, and how local communities can play a role in maintaining the health of their surrounding environment. Because conservation is not a single action, it is a long-term process, one that involves science, policy, community awareness, and time. Perhaps one of the most important aspects of axolotl conservation is education, helping people understand why this creature matters, not just as a scientific subject, but as a living part of a unique ecosystem. When people learn about the axolotl, they often discover a deeper appreciation for the environment it represents. A network of water systems that supports countless forms of life, from microscopic organisms to larger aquatic species, everything connected through shared dependence on water quality and habitat stability. In this way, the axolotl becomes more than just an animal. It becomes a point of connection between human understanding and natural systems, a reminder that ecosystems are not distant or abstract. They are real, present, and deeply interconnected with human activity. As we imagine the canals where axolotls still exist, it is important to remember that conservation efforts are ongoing. They are not complete. They are not final. They evolve over time, just like the ecosystems they aim to protect. Some efforts show progress, others face challenges, but the overall direction remains one of increasing awareness and care. There is something quietly hopeful in that process, because it shows that attention alone can make a difference. That understanding can lead to action, and that even small efforts, when combined, can contribute to larger change. The axolotl continues to live within this evolving context. It does not recognize conservation as a concept,
It does not understand human efforts to protect it. It simply responds to its environment as it always has. But the conditions shaping that environment are now influenced not only by natural processes, but also by human decisions. As night continues over the canal, the axolotl moves gently through its world. Its behavior remains unchanged. Its rhythm remains steady. But its future is now linked to a wider network of care and responsibility. A connection between nature and human awareness, between vulnerability and protection, between change and preservation. And as we move forward into the next chapter, we will explore how this small creature has become a symbol far beyond biology. A presence in culture, art, and imagination. A quiet figure that continues to inspire people around the world. Chapter 17. The Axolotl in Human Culture. As the night continues its slow and gentle unfolding, the world beyond our story fades into deeper stillness. The canal remains calm beneath a quiet sky. Moonlight rests softly upon the surface of the water, and beneath it, the axolotl continues its peaceful movement through an ancient aquatic world. In the previous chapter, we explored the efforts made to protect this remarkable species. We saw how science, conservation, and awareness come together in an attempt to preserve its fragile home. Tonight, we shift our attention once again, not toward biology or environment, but toward something more human, the way the axolotl exists within culture, imagination, and artistic expression. Because while the axolotl lives in water, it also lives in stories, in symbols, in images, and in the quiet fascination it inspires across the world. For many people, the axolotl is not just an animal, it is an idea, a presence that feels slightly unreal, almost dreamlike. Its appearance alone contributes to this perception. The soft, rounded shape of its body, the delicate frills of its external gills, its calm, expressionless face, and its permanent state of aquatic youth. All of these features give it a quality that feels almost fictional, as if it belongs equally to nature and imagination. In modern times, the axolotl has become widely recognized beyond scientific and ecological contexts. It appears in illustrations, in digital art, in animations, in games and creative media, often depicted with a sense of charm and softness that emphasizes its gentle appearance. Artists are drawn to it for many reasons. Some are fascinated by its unusual biology, others by its aesthetic qualities, and some by the emotional response it evokes. There is something about the axolotl that feels calming to observe. Its slow movements and its quiet presence, its soft flowing gills moving gently with the water. These characteristics translate easily into visual art forms. They invite interpretation. They encourage creativity. In some representations, the axolotl is stylized in bright colors, pink, blue, purple, sometimes even glowing or fantastical in appearance. These artistic interpretations are not attempts at biological accuracy. Instead, they reflect emotional impressions, the feeling of softness, the sense of tranquility, the idea of something gentle existing in a complex world. In other representations, the axolotl is kept closer to its natural appearance. Earthy tones, subtle textures, careful attention to anatomical detail. These works often aim to highlight its real-world biology, its evolutionary uniqueness, its ecological importance. Both approaches reflect different ways humans relate to nature, one through imagination, the other through observation, and the axolotl exists comfortably within both. In digital culture, the axolotl has gained popularity as a symbol of calmness and emotional comfort. Its image is often shared in contexts related to relaxation, peace, and softness. People are drawn to it during moments of stress or fatigue, not because it offers answers, but because it represents stillness, a quiet presence in contrast to a busy world. This emotional connection is not based on scientific function. It is based on perception, on the feeling that the axolotl, in its slow and gentle existence, offers a visual form of calm. In some communities, it has even become a symbolic creature, associated with themes such as healing, patience, and quiet resilience. These associations are not biologically derived. They are culturally constructed, but they demonstrate how humans interpret nature through emotional and symbolic frameworks. The axolotl also appears in educational contexts, in classrooms, in documentaries, in science communication. Here, it serves a different role, a bridge between complex biological concepts and accessible understanding. Its regenerative abilities make it an effective example when explaining development and healing. Its unique life cycle helps illustrate concepts in evolutionary biology. Its appearance captures attention, making it easier for people to engage with scientific material. In this sense, the axolotl becomes a teaching tool, a living example of biological principles. But even in educational settings, its presence often extends beyond pure instruction. Students and audiences frequently respond to it with curiosity and emotional interest. It is not just informative, it is engaging. Beyond science and art, the axolotl has also found its way into broader cultural symbolism. It is sometimes used as a representation of uniqueness, of difference, of natural diversity that does not conform to expectations. Its unusual life cycle, in which it remains aquatic throughout adulthood, challenges common assumptions about growth and transformation. This has led some to interpret it as a symbol of staying true to one's nature, remaining unchanged despite external expectations. Again, these meanings are not inherent to the animal itself. They are human interpretations layered onto its existence, but they reflect the way living beings can become symbols within culture. Over time, the axolotl has also become part of scientific identity. Featured in research discussions, laboratory studies, and biological publications, it occupies a space where science and culture intersect, where objective study meets subjective interpretation, where data and meaning coexist. There is something unique about this position. Few animals exist so comfortably within both scientific importance and cultural imagination. The axolotl is studied in laboratories but also admired in art. It is analyzed in research papers, but also shared in visual media. It is both subject and symbol. In its natural habitat, however, none of these interpretations matter. The axolotl does not experience itself as a symbol. It does not understand its cultural significance. It does not participate in human meaning-making. It simply exists, drifting through water, responding to its environment, living according to ancient biological rhythms. This contrast between human interpretation and biological reality is important because it reminds us that meaning is something we create, not something the organism itself produces. As we imagine the axolotl moving through its quiet aquatic world, it remains unchanged by the attention it receives. Whether seen as a scientific model, a cultural symbol, or a work of natural beauty, its life continues in the same way. Slow, steady, quiet, and deeply connected to its environment. Perhaps this is part of why it resonates so strongly with people, because beneath all interpretation, it represents something simple, life existing in balance with its surroundings, unhurried, uncomplicated, present. As the night continues to settle over the canal, we carry this image with us. A small creature moving gently through water, seen in many ways, understood in many contexts, but always returning to the same quiet reality beneath the surface. And as we move forward into the next chapter, we will explore the axolotl's presence in modern science communication and popular media, how it continues to inspire curiosity in new generations, and how its story keeps evolving as human understanding grows. Chapter 18. The Axolotl in Modern Science and Media. As the night deepens further and the world beyond our story fades into a softer silence, we continue our slow journey through the calm waters of imagination and understanding. The canal remains still beneath a quiet, distant moon. The surface of the water reflects faint traces of light, moving gently like breathing shadows. And somewhere below, the axolotl continues its peaceful existence, unaffected by the attention it receives far beyond its aquatic world. In the previous chapter, we explored how this remarkable creature became part of human culture. We saw how it appears in art,
symbolism, and emotional interpretation. Tonight we move into another layer of its presence in the modern world, a space where science meets communication, where research meets storytelling, and where the axolotl continues to inspire curiosity in new and evolving ways. In today's world, the axolotl is no longer known only to scientists or local communities. It has become widely recognized across global media. Its image appears in documentaries, educational videos, online platforms, and scientific outreach programs designed to explain complex biological ideas in simple and engaging ways. One of the reasons for this visibility is its unique appearance. The axolotl is instantly recognizable. Its external gills, its soft body, its calm expression, and its unusual combination of biological traits. These features make it an ideal subject for visual communication. When people see it, they often pause. They become curious. They ask questions. What is this creature? Where does it come from? Why does it look this way? This natural curiosity makes the axolotl a powerful tool for science communication. Because before understanding begins, attention must first be captured, and the axolotl captures attention effortlessly. In educational media, it is often used to explain concepts in biology that might otherwise feel abstract. Regeneration, development, adaptation, genetics, evolution. Each of these topics can be illustrated through the axolotl's biology. Its ability to regenerate limbs helps explain how cells can reorganize and rebuild tissue. Its developmental patterns help demonstrate how organisms grow and change over time. Its genetic structure provides insight into how traits are inherited and expressed. In this way, the axolotl becomes more than an animal. It becomes a living example of biological principles, but science communication is not limited to formal education. In recent years, the axolotl has also gained popularity in digital spaces, social media platforms, online communities, visual storytelling channels. Here, its image is often shared not only for educational purposes, but also for emotional and aesthetic reasons. People are drawn to its gentle appearance, its soft movements, its calm presence in water. In fast-paced digital environments, the axolotl represents something different, something slower, something quieter, a contrast to the constant flow of information and activity. This contrast may be one reason for its popularity. In a world filled with rapid change, the axolotl offers a visual pause, a moment of stillness, a reminder that life can also exist in slow motion. Some creators use the axolotl in animations and digital art that emphasize relaxation and calmness. Soft lighting, flowing water, gentle motion. These artistic choices enhance the perception of the axolotl as a peaceful presence. Not because it is designed to be calming in nature, but because its natural behavior already suggests stillness and balance. In scientific documentaries, the axolotl is often presented in a different tone. Here, the focus shifts toward its biological importance. Researchers explain its regenerative abilities, its developmental processes, its role as a model organism in laboratory studies. These presentations aim to communicate not only what the axolotl is, but why it matters in scientific research. Footage of axolotls in controlled environments is often used to illustrate key concepts. Slow movements are highlighted. Regenerative processes are explained step by step. Viewers are guided through the hidden complexity of its biology. In this context, the axolotl becomes a gateway to deeper scientific understanding. But even in scientific media, there is often an emotional response. People are fascinated not only by the information, but by the creature itself. Its appearance continues to evoke curiosity and wonder. This combination of scientific value and visual appeal is rare. It allows the axolotl to function as both a research subject and a communication tool. Few organisms occupy this dual role so effectively. In educational science outreach, especially for younger audiences, the axolotl is particularly powerful. Its unusual features make it memorable. Its gentle behavior makes it approachable. Its regenerative abilities make it exciting. These qualities help introduce complex scientific ideas in an accessible way.
Children and students often remember the axolotl long after learning about it, not only as a biological example, but as a living creature that feels almost magical in its capabilities. In online discussions, the axolotl has also become a subject of fascination beyond formal science. People share images, facts, videos, and personal reactions to its appearance and behavior. Sometimes it is described in playful or affectionate terms, sometimes as a symbol of calmness or uniqueness. These interpretations vary widely, but they all reflect a shared sense of interest, a collective curiosity about a creature that feels both real and extraordinary. Despite this widespread attention, it is important to remember that the axolotl itself remains unchanged. It does not participate in media. It does not respond to digital representations. It does not understand its popularity. It continues its life as it always has, in water, in stillness, in quiet interaction with its environment. The contrast between its natural existence and its modern representation is striking. On one hand, it is a biological organism shaped by evolution and ecology. On the other hand, it is a cultural and educational symbol shaped by human interpretation. Both perspectives coexist, both are valid in their own context, but neither changes the fundamental reality of the animal itself. As we imagine the axolotl drifting through its underwater world, it remains distant from all of this. Unaware of documentaries, unaware of online platforms, unaware of scientific discussions happening far above its habitat, it simply continues living, responding to light, to water, to movement, to the subtle rhythms of its environment, and yet, through human observation, it has become one of the most recognizable amphibians in modern science communication, a bridge between complex biology and public understanding. A subject that connects research with imagination, a reminder that science is not only about data and experiments, but also about storytelling, about sharing knowledge in ways that inspire curiosity. As the night grows deeper over the canal, we reflect once more on this dual existence, the axolotl in its natural world, and the axolotl in human media. Two perspectives, two ways of seeing the same creature, both shaped by context, both contributing to its ongoing significance. And as we move forward into the next chapter, we will begin to bring this journey toward a gentle close, reflecting on everything we have explored, and returning once more to the quiet presence of the axolotl beneath the surface. Chapter 19. What the axolotl teaches us. As the night begins to settle into its deepest silence, the world beyond our story feels distant and still. The canal remains unchanged beneath the soft glow of moonlight. The water moves only slightly, as if breathing slowly with the rhythm of the night itself, and beneath that surface the axolotl continues its quiet existence, as it always has. In the previous chapters, we followed its journey through biology, environment, culture, and science. We explored its regeneration, its habitat, its colors, its role in human understanding. And now, as we approach the final reflections of this journey, we turn towards something more abstract, something less about what the axolotl is, and more about what it represents. Because beyond all the scientific detail, beyond all the cultural meaning, beyond all the observations and studies, the axolotl quietly offers something deeper. A set of lessons, not spoken, not intentional, but revealed through its way of life. The first of these lessons is patience. The axolotl does not rush. It does not chase time. It moves through its world slowly, responding only when necessary. In a human world often defined by speed and urgency, this stands in contrast. It reminds us that not all progress requires acceleration, that not all life must be lived quickly to be meaningful. In the stillness of its movements, there is a different rhythm, one that belongs to water, not clocks, one that follows nature, not schedules. The second lesson is adaptation. The axolotl exists within a changing environment.
Water conditions shift, food availability varies, external pressures evolve over time, and yet it continues, not by resisting change, but by adjusting to it. Its biology reflects this flexibility, its behavior reflects this responsiveness, its survival reflects this quiet capacity to remain present within change. Adaptation, in this sense, is not forceful, it is subtle. It is continuous. It is part of living rather than reacting. The third lesson is resilience, but not in the dramatic sense often associated with strength. The axolotl does not survive through struggle or confrontation. It survives through regeneration, through restoration, through the ability to rebuild what has been lost. This form of resilience is not about enduring damage alone. It is about recovering from it, about returning to wholeness in a way that feels almost impossible in comparison to many other animals. And yet, for the axolotl, it is natural, a part of its existence, a reminder that recovery can be just as important as endurance. The fourth lesson is interconnectedness. The axolotl does not exist in isolation. It is part of an ecosystem, a network of plants, animals, water systems, and environmental conditions. Its life depends on balance within this system, and in return, it contributes to it. Nothing exists independently in its world. Everything is connected. This idea extends beyond biology. It reflects a broader truth about life in general. That no organism, no system, no environment exists completely alone. Everything is shaped by relationships. The fifth lesson is simplicity. The axolotl's life is not defined by complexity in behavior. It does not construct elaborate structures. It does not engage in intricate social systems. It does not pursue goals beyond survival and reproduction. And yet, within this simplicity, there is depth, a quiet richness that does not require complexity to be meaningful. Its existence shows that simplicity is not absence. It is clarity. The sixth lesson is curiosity, not from the axolotl itself, but from the human response to it. Because this small creature has inspired scientists, artists, educators, and observers across the world. It has encouraged questions, driven research, sparked imagination. Curiosity is not a property of the animal alone. It is a relationship between observer and observed. The axolotl exists, and humans respond with wonder. Together, this creates a cycle of discovery. The seventh lesson is humility, because despite all the attention it receives, the axolotl remains unchanged by it. It does not acknowledge its scientific importance. It does not recognize its cultural symbolism. It does not adjust its behavior based on human perception. It simply continues living within its environment. This reminds us that nature does not exist for observation. It exists for itself, and human understanding is only a layer added on top of that reality. As we reflect on these lessons, it becomes clear that the axolotl is not teaching in an intentional way. It is not aware of interpretation. It is not communicating messages. Instead, meaning emerges through observation, through attention, through the human tendency to find patterns and significance in natural behavior. And yet, even if these lessons are human interpretations, they still carry value, because they arise from real observation of a real organism. As the night deepens further, imagine the axolotl moving gently through its watery world. Its gills swaying softly, its body gliding without urgency, its presence blending into the stillness around it. There is no performance, no intention, no awareness of being observed. Only life, unfolding in its natural rhythm. In a world often filled with noise, complexity, and acceleration, the axolotl offers a different image, a slower one, a quieter one, a more grounded one. Not as an instruction, but as an observation, a possibility, a reminder that life can exist in many forms, and that not all of them need to resemble speed or intensity to be meaningful. As we move closer to the final chapter of this journey, we begin to gather everything we have seen: the biology, the environment, the culture, the science, the symbolism, and now these reflections. All of it forming a single continuous story about a small amphibian that lives beneath the surface of water, and yet somehow extends far beyond it in meaning. In the final chapter, we will bring this journey to a gentle close, returning once more to the stillness of the canal,
and to the quiet presence of the axolotl, drifting through the night as it always has. Chapter 20. Final Night Beneath the Water. As we arrive at the final chapter of this long journey, the night feels quieter than ever. The world beyond the canal has faded into near silence. No movement disturbs the surface. No sound breaks the stillness. Only the gentle presence of water, reflecting the faint light of distant stars. And beneath that calm surface, the axolotl continues its timeless existence, unchanged, unrushed, unaware that it has been the center of this entire journey. In the previous chapters, we followed its life through many layers of understanding. We explored its biology, its regeneration, its habitat, its history, its cultural meaning, and the way it exists within both science and imagination. But now, at the end of this path, we do not search for new information. Instead, we return to simplicity, to presence, to observation without explanation. Imagine once more the quiet canal at night. The water is dark, but not empty. Life exists beneath the surface, even if it cannot always be seen. Plants sway gently in slow currents. Small organisms move through hidden spaces, and among them the axolotl drifts quietly. Its movement is almost imperceptible. A slow shift through water, a gentle adjustment of position, a calm presence within a calm world. There is no urgency in its behavior, no destination it must reach, no goal it must achieve in this moment. Only continuation, only existence. As we observe it now, it becomes clear that much of what we have explored throughout this journey was never separate from this simple image, the axolotl moving through water. Everything else was an attempt to understand that moment, to explain it, to interpret it, to place it within systems of knowledge. But at its core, the reality remains unchanged, a small amphibian living in a quiet aquatic world, breathing through external gills that sway gently with every movement of water, responding to subtle shifts in its environment, existing within a balance it does not consciously analyze but naturally inhabits. There is something deeply grounding in this simplicity, because it reminds us that not everything needs to be extraordinary in appearance to hold meaning. Sometimes meaning emerges from attention itself, from the act of noticing, from the willingness to look closely at something that might otherwise be overlooked. The axolotl does not demand attention. It does not seek recognition. It does not perform for observation. Yet through observation, it becomes something more in the human mind, a subject of science, a symbol in culture, a presence in imagination, and perhaps that is part of its quiet significance, not because it changes, but because we do. As we have moved through its world, we have moved through different ways of seeing, from biology to environment, from science to culture, from observation to reflection, each layer adding depth not to the axolotl itself, but to our understanding of it. And yet, beneath all these layers, the creature remains the same, drifting, breathing, living. The canal around it remains unchanged as well. Water continues its slow cycles. Plants continue their quiet growth. Life continues in forms too small to fully perceive in a single moment. And time, as always, moves forward without pause. In this final reflection, it becomes clear that the axolotl does not need to be interpreted in order to matter. It does not require symbolism to have value. It does not depend on human attention to exist meaningfully. It is already complete within its own context, a part of a world that functions without needing to be understood in full. As the night deepens one last time in our journey, imagine the axolotl slowly moving into the darker parts of the canal, its outline softening into shadow, its presence becoming less distinct but still present, not disappearing, just blending into the environment it belongs to. There is no final transformation, no dramatic ending, no resolution in the traditional sense, only continuation, because in nature, endings are rarely absolute. Life moves in cycles, in rhythms, in ongoing patterns that do not truly stop. And so, even as this story ends, the axolotl continues, somewhere beneath the water, somewhere in silence.
somewhere within the quiet flow of its world, still moving, still existing, still part of a system far larger than any single story. And as we leave this final chapter, we do not leave the axolotl behind. We simply stop watching for a moment. The canal remains, the water remains, and life continues as it always has, slowly, gently, and without end.